What's up, guys? What's happening?
Yo.
Hi.
What's happening, everybody?
I'm responding. I'm also driving in a torrential downpour here in the A, so I apologize about that.
No worries.
I just jumped up to tell you that spaces are broken at the top of the screen, so be sure and tell people throughout your space to repost it.
What do you mean it's broken? Like it disappears?
There's only like two spaces showing for most people.
Oh, really? It just showed me like, it showed me like 500 of them. Like,
yeah, there's not.
Recently for me, it's been showing me every space that's active everywhere, so I literally have to like scroll through it. Like it's really annoying. I can never figure out what it is. Yeah, it sucks.
Dude, like that's such like a mental toll. Like when you look at the topics and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, you have to scroll for like 5 minutes. You literally have to scroll for like 5 minutes. There's like 500 meme coin spaces that no one has any idea what the meme coin is. Like it's ridiculous. You know, it's pretty funny though. I mean, I did. You know, it's partial. I feel like it's partially some of the people's fault that we all complain. Well, we can't always see everybody's spaces. Well, now I see all of them, and I don't like it.
Yeah, no. I actually, matter of fact, I went through. It's probably why I have a better experience because I went through when I had like a ton of spaces showing, and if like I didn't know who the person was that was hosting it or co-hosting it, or I didn't like the topic, it was like unfollow. I clean up X a lot from my experience because it's so shitty here.
Yeah, I mean, I have to spend inordinate amount of time, like, you know, curating my feed. It takes forever.
You know, in a place that I hate so much, you think I wouldn't spend enough time on it. Although I have dialed it way back.
Well, anyhow, guys. So, you know, the world didn't end from Trump's recession. You know, we survived the Trump recession. It was a full 2 days. You know, everyone was crying and the sky was falling, but turns out none of that happened. And we were right. Trash. It was China. Wow. What a shock there. We were all right the whole time. You know.
How about that? Hey, Savvy, can you add that to the binder for me?
Yes. Yeah. Let me flip to that page and right here. Yep. Add it to the binder. Weird trash is not wrong. Got it.
Thank you.
I mean, we did call it, though. We literally spent like all weekend telling everybody, stop freaking out. We're literally just going after China. We're going after China. We're going after China. Everyone's still freaked out, but we were just going after China. So, you know, anyway, I do love, though, I do have to rant about this because it's so funny. The people out here that, okay, so Trump as a person is a multi-billion-dollar businessman, a successful celebrity TV star, builds skyscrapers in countries all around the world, became president on his first attempt, then managed to have the greatest political comeback in political history and became the second president in all of American history to win the presidency in 2 non-consecutive terms. Yet, you still think that guy is not at all planning anything he does, that he's just Forrest Gumping his way through life, that he just flows like the wind and just does things. Like, I don't, if you really believe that, after everything that we've seen over the past 10 years, there's no helping you. Like, there's just not. Like, you have a deficiency, and it somehow prevents you from understanding that someone might have the ability to think better than you. And just because you can't rationalize it does not mean it's true. I mean, I don't know what to do with these people. I do love that Trump has referred to them as the new Panikin party. That is the perfect representation of them. They are Panikins, and all Panikin propaganda will be completely dismissed, and you will be laughed at after Trump wins yet again. Go ahead, Seth.
Oh, speaking of Panikin. Oh, you had a hand up?
Sorry, Seth. Go ahead, Seth.
No, I was just going to say, like, after what we saw with, you know, the stock market yesterday, I'm just sitting back, and I know that Trash and I had this discussion. I'm like, it's almost like he kind of knows what he's doing. Like, it's so weird that people just don't understand. Like, homie is a businessman. He is, I mean, and you think about his techniques, they're very, especially with what he did and in the time frame he did it, it's very Reagan-esque. Homie was making millies under Reagan. You think he's not going to do that again? Like, people, just do a little reading. Read The Art of the Deal. I mean, seriously, it's all in there. It's his playbook. So
I do have to say, the best meme that came out from this whole thing was when someone tweeted out Xi holding The Art of the Deal, reading it. That was just so spot on.
Yo,
Like, oh my God, I was losing it.
I like the George Floyd one myself, where President Trump,
that one was amazing.
The police officer, and Xi is George. I lost it. It sent me next level.
Yeah, that one.
Well, and the text messages with Xi and
yes,
Trump
yes, those are gold too. I love this. Donald, why are you ghosting me? Oh my God. Just, I love this place. It's so stupid.
Well, yeah, and speaking of the panicins, what I was going to say was, so Sav, I don't know if you know this today, and women listening, if you're married, you cannot vote anymore. That happened today too. Married women are not allowed to vote anymore today.
Well,
that's right.
Jokes on them because I ain't married.
Well, I was going to say, that's why I stopped with you.
Vote often.
Yeah, that's why I stopped with you. I was like, well, ladies listening, married women listening, just know that your voting rights ended today. Did they repeal the 19th Amendment, Aaron? No, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked, but that's not actually what happened. Matter of fact, none of that happened today, but that won't stop Sunny Hostin from telling you that it did.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
You're serious.
Get serious.
Listen, these people don't care what they say. Like, they just don't care. Savvy, I forgot to tell you guys about this. So Saturday, when I was at that protest this past Saturday, right? I was at this protest and I was listening to this guy talk. And I wish I'd got this on recording. I was literally running across the field to see if I could get this on video because it was so dumb. I heard him say it, and I sprinted from the sidewalk all the way up just to see what this guy looked like, because it was just amazing. He said that Trump and Musk are repealing child labor laws. Then he proceeded to tell the entire crowd of 200 or 300 people that they're trying to send your 12-year-old to the meat packing factory. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea. Like, I was running across this field, it's pouring down rain. I'm in a suit. I'm running across the field going, I've got to get it on video. And I missed it. I was so upset. I was dying laughing. This whole crowd of people staring at me as the only person standing in the rain in a suit. I'm like, guys, I missed the video. You have no idea how upset I am about that.
Well, and so I saw some. And to be fair, people that share TikToks all the time, please stop. I don't have TikTok for a reason. I don't need to see the idiots and the retards in TikTok on X. Like, there's a reason I don't go over there. However, I did see one where it was this obviously single cat lady, probably in her 30s, was crying in her car, of course, because where else would you do a TikTok that is sitting in your car quietly where no one can hear you? And she's crying into the camera. And she says, everybody needs to run out and get their passports immediately or you'll never be able to vote again. And I'm like, do you know how long that takes and how hard it is to actually get your passport versus just going?
Wait, hold the freaking phone, because Raphael Warnock is the one pushing for passport. Yeah. So, sweetie, what? Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
People are I hate stupid people. I'm sorry. Yeah. I had to say it.
Like myself, that has to get travel visas, that has a passport. I can assure you getting a state ID is a lot easier.
You guys are missing, you guys of all the doomsday things. And hi, Walter, Savvy, Trash. How are you guys doing? You're missing all the real tragedy of what's happened. I can't believe you haven't mentioned it yet, that China is reducing Hollywood film imports. So the world is officially now ending. And Trump actually got asked that question today at the cabinet meeting. And I don't know if you saw his response. He says, I think I've heard of worse things. It was hysterical.
Yes, I did see that. It was incredible. I mean, I just love Trump. Just everything about this stupid, the whole, oh my God, the world is ending. He just says, listen, don't panic. And by the way, you know what he did? He said, now is the time to buy. If you had just put in all in right when he said that, you could have made the trade of the century. I wish I know that Trump.
Let's calm down, Martha Stewart. We don't need any inside training tips. This is not financial advice in this space.
I mean, but really though, he told the entire world, now was the time to buy. He told the entire world that. And then later that day, he does that. Like, I wish I need to turn notifications on for frickin' Trump's Truth Social so I can learn to trade, apparently. I mean, just amazing. It was so funny to me when I saw that. And of course they all said they all said insider trading too.
I was just about to say, I was like, how soon before someone brings something and goes to some judge and something comes up, oh, he's been indicted for insider trading. Oh, geez.
Yeah. So Adam Schiff is spinning up an investigation into members of Congress for insider trading. But what's insider about it? I pointed this out earlier when I believe it was Senate Democrats, maybe House Democrats' official account had put out that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump had conspired in an insider trading deal. And I was like, well, but here's the thing. Insider trading means like, hey, by the way, I got a tip. We're gonna pass some legislation here, so you might want to go all in on, say, NVIDIA. Just saying, Ms. Pelosi, we're gonna pass a CHIPS Act. But either way, that would be like insider trading or creating loopholes and then going to work for those companies. That's some shady shit too, right? But posting a Truth Social and an X post saying, I know it looks like the market is really down. This seems like a great time to buy is not insider trading.
That seems very outsider to me. I don't know.
Well, that's what my point is. Literally, he told the entire world, buy right now. Do it, buy. And then the market goes up 3,000%. You'd be like, what? It's just so funny.
By the way, if he really knew what he was talking about, he would have told us all to sell today.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that too. I mean, it's just so funny to me, just listening to the panic, the terror, the, oh my God, the world is ending, and then nothing happened, and Trump was right again. And now, this is the comment that I made the other day, was that, Trump, in the span of one single week, he took a geopolitical rival, our major geopolitical rival, put them into a terrible trading position. He managed to get every country in the entire world to come to the table for new trade deals with the United States, and showed the entire world the power of the American market on full scale. So,
and let's not forget that now there are murmurs that China wants to negotiate. Because
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, because now it's up to 145%. And China's like, no, this is fucking with us, man. Like, y'all got to come correct. And so there are whispers and murmurs that China's like, yo, Prezi T, like, can we have a meeting?
Well, I mean, remember, they tagged Trump on their freaking embassy, like, X account. Like, that's how bad Trump is ghosting these people, that their only recourse was to tag him on X.
Yeah, well, I mean, and he said, anybody that came to the table without trying to, basically come after me in any kind of way or try to puff their chest is going to get priority. If you came after me, we're just going to leave the tariffs there, no problem. Those of you that came to the table, 10% for 90 days until we figure this thing out. But those of you that that went on the offense, well, sorry, you have to wait. Second part of that is that President Xi only works in power, regardless if he's coordinated himself the supreme leader or not. If you remember that, like a year and a half ago, there's also rumors and probably likelihood that there's already moves being made to try to ouster him due to this. And so that's why, honestly, really, that's the only reason he's capitulating. Because as I remember, Walt, when I was saying, like, look, the Chinese can lose in this deal as long as they give them a PR win to save face because it's so ingrained in their culture. He has made it so it's egg on their face, and Trump set them up and they fell for the trap. So now they have to save face with the populace that they run authoritarian regime over and the magic pixie dust of everything's all great, yet we're standing on your neck the entire time. Now there's a problem with all the people that seek power, that have, that run these mega corporations and industries that do have a say inside the CCP, because the money makes the world go round, and you have to have the facade of what of the paper, dragon that they paint. I think Xi's in a lot of shit, and I don't think it has anything to do with us.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened. This was a perfect play by Trump. And you know what? Opinions actually put this out. He found a tweet from Eric Trump that was on the day of on Liberation Day. And he says, the last person to get to the table will wish that they will really regret the fact that they were the last person at the table. And he said specifically, I've seen this my whole life, wait and watch. And sure enough, that tweet's going to go down as historical in my eyes. Guys, before we continue here, make sure you share the space out. Go down to the bottom right, leave a comment, share the space, quote tweet it out. I'll retweet it if you quote tweet it. And if you have something to say and you don't want to come up here and say it, you can always just post a comment down there below. I do read them throughout the space, but make sure you share it out. We're getting started here. This is the War Room for the evening. We're probably going to be going till about midnight, 12:30. That's usually my cutoff time. But make sure you follow the hosts and everybody up here. So make sure you follow Savvy, Trash, Opinions. These are great people. They put out good content. Make sure you turn notifications on for everybody up here. But anyway, so let's continue here. I have been so busy dealing with legal issues today that I have not really had much time to read the news. So what exactly happened today? Because I just saw a minute ago, I just put this out that we have now made it a law, or there's a new regulation that all illegals must register with the U.S. government. And Stephen Miller comes out and says if they fail to register, they're going to go to jail. What's that all about? That's amazing.
I think Aaron has a great take on this, actually. So, Aaron, I think you are the perfect one because he and I have been having this discussion now for 2 weeks, something like that.
At least.
Yeah, there is definitely a method to this madness and a reason for it. And if you happen to watch, and this is, of course, speculation, but Aaron and I don't ever seem to be wrong when it comes to this. If you watch the presser today with Caroline Leavitt, and one of the press corps asked her, hey, President Trump sort of alluded to finding something big. Can you tell us what it is? And she goes, oh, it's big, but I'm not going to get in front of the president on this. So, Aaron, why don't you take that? Because I think this sort of falls into what we've been discussing.
Yeah, so this is part of a bigger thing. If you guys noticed, so Walt, you remember the head of the IRS basically resigned, right? And there's been some murmurs about Doge team has found, and they released some data today regarding unemployment. We saw that there were people that weren't even born yet, not until 2154, that were receiving unemployment benefits. There was many other people receiving all kinds of benefits. But there's been murmurs about IRS and an investigation going on there. And I believe that that's still what is the big boom. And the head of the IRS resigned because she got out of the way. My guess is because she doesn't want to use the IRS to basically track down illegal immigrants that have been filing tax returns or been paying taxes, not alone filing returns, but just paying taxes, working within the country. And so there seems to be a full-scale operation. At the same time, if you guys saw this, the CBP1 app has now been flipped. This was yesterday. CB1 app has been flipped into a tracking device. So now anybody that entered within the country is now being tracked through the CBP1 app. That's also how they were receiving their benefits that were being paid by these NGOs and the government to these people through the CBP1 app. Now it's been flipped around and turned into a tracking device. Now we're seeing what's going on at the IRS. And I think that the big announcement is going to be of how much money was actually being spent and given to illegals. And that's why she got out of the way, hoping to avoid any kind of prosecution. She dressed it up in a pretty little lipstick by saying, oh, I would never, my principles go against tracking people down. This is government overreach. But the reality is I think she's trying to save her hide. Something I was talking about yesterday, Walt, too. This all ties in. So just bear with me 30 seconds because Savvy and I talk about this a lot. But we really go deep on the stuff and so let me finish this point. What's happening actually probably is now that Shapley's in charge inside of the IRS. This is one of the whistleblowers from the Hunter Biden story. We saw the stuff with Catherine Herridge coming out about the Hunter Biden laptop and wanting all the communications from the FBI. We saw Tulsi Gabbard spin up the investigations. We saw Chris Krebs of what happened with him with the executive order yesterday. It's all coming down. And so Stephen Miller coming out and saying, yes, because they broke the law by entering the country illegally. So you've already broken the law. And so if you do not report, if you do not do this, then yes, you will go thrown in jail. And it's part of this large scale network, right? Just think of it as like a dragnet or like a large fishing net, right? You're basically creating all these different barriers of track and ability to scoop it up. People are like, oh, there's only been a few thousand deported and blah, blah, blah. This is not what Trump promised. Yeah, well, I'm seeing something very, very different develop here. And I talked about this, Walt. Remember last Friday, maybe Saturday, I was having that space and I was like, look, a lot of big things are coming next week. And people are like, it's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, really? Well, the evidence is clear to me. And now here we are. It's just now Thursday. And look what we've got. It looks like they're setting up this massive scale operation to wrap up a bunch of people and get them out of the country. Not to mention self-deportations are through the roof. CBP's reporting the self-deportation. The coyotes are now making money getting people out of the country when they were getting them in. There's some NGOs that are still being funded by foreign adversaries and foreign groups. And there's still some money floating around and grants floating around, which is why those court cases were such a big deal of getting these people out of the country and self-deporting. It's a big dragnet that they're setting up. It's a big fishing net. So a lot of pieces moving here. Very excited to see it.
Well, and there's the other thing here. So I don't know if you guys saw this. So the CBP One app, when it was switched to the Home app, I figured they'd start using it for all sorts of things. And then shortly after that, I think it was either this week or it was late last week. This kind of went under the radar for people, but it did happen. This was Kristi Noem announced that they're going to start charging illegals for being in the country $1,000 a day.
That was this week when she was doing Cosplay Kitty here in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the best part about this is, my suggestion to them was that what you should do is you should send push notifications to the app to every illegal in the country, informing them that their bill is increasing, by the day, and and then remind them, hey, you can deport in the flight is free and you won't be charged anymore if you deport. So I think we're going to see a mass exodus, which is going to be fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. That should happen reasonably quickly. The deal is that everyone's been wondering when the mass deportation stuff is happening. And, every single time Miller is on television, he has said the mass deportations will occur. They are going to happen. And I tend to believe Miller when he talks. So I'm looking forward to this progressing here.
Yeah, all the pieces seem to be falling into place. Sure, the independent cabinet secretaries are doing their job. And yes, it's all great, well and dandy that everyone's rubbing each other's backs in these open cabinet meeting pressers. And that's good. And people are like, yay, transparency. I'm like, yeah, but it's kind of I don't know. I mean, I guess it is what the 5 things that you did this week email, just in video format with the president. That seems to be what it essentially is. Matter of fact, I got to find this thread. Somebody put together a thread. Can't remember her name. I'll go find it. But she basically crystallized everyone's bullet points with the video and broke it down into like bullet points, like meeting minutes on each individual cabinet secretary. So it did look like the 5 things that you've done this week email. But when you look at all of the pieces that are moving and you look at the things that are going into place, it's clear to me that this is absolutely methodical. There's plenty of time to self-report. I do believe that the app is notifying these people that they do have a balance. I believe I saw that in some of the reporting. They are notifying them. Now, as far as push notifications or hey, somebody wants to buy your lawnmower, like push notification from Facebook Marketplace or something. Maybe not that, but it is showing up and showing. And now they're actually getting set. They're going to be set with deadlines in these apps and many other areas. And so this is all happening, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen very slow at first, like we always say, and then everything all at once. Bam. And I've been watching this for some time, and I think we're on the precipice of something really, truly glorious. And I got to be honest with you, out of all the amazing things, and Chris Krebs is the big one for me. You guys know me in censorship and CISA. But my favorite thing this week was Gretchen Whitmer with that look on her face, standing to the side of the wall in the Oval Office when the executive order rolled out about the 2020 election. I was just like, oh, you don't even need to put her in handcuffs. That was cathartic enough. But it's coming, and I have much more evidence to add to this, but more people need to talk.
Did you see Trash today what Tulsi Gabbard said during that cabinet meeting about the vending machines? Totally aligned with Krebs. Totally aligned with him.
Well, but this is something we need to discuss at length because, Trash, I know you tracked this today because that was the one piece of news that I saw that I was like, wait a minute, what did you just say? Ooh. So the deal is Tulsi not only comes out about this, but there's also the head of CISA was also relieved. I don't know if you guys saw that. So CISA's head was relieved. Then and Tulsi comes out about this as well. So big things are about to happen on election integrity very soon. And the SAVE Act passes all on the same day. Like, guys, this is for real.
What I think they should do with that CBP app, you know those things they do with guys that you've seen in the past where people with warrants and they can never find these people, and then they send them like a notice that they want a new car or something, and they all show up at some abandoned mall and they all get arrested. Can't they do something like that with that app? Like tell these people like, oh, you just won $500, show up at this place, and they come in and just put millions of them in a building and ship them all out in the same day.
Something tells me.
I do not hate that idea.
Well, no, I don't hate it either, but practicality wise, I just, no. Again, so yeah, I saw that today. I saw that with all about CISA. The parts are moving, and I knew this was going to be a big week. I called it. Savvy, add it to the binder.
I got it. Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I'm driving and flipping, so adding things to the binder take a minute. But yep. Got you.
We can voice note it. It's fine.
Yes, I got it. No worries.
I love it. I mean, but this is going to be great to watch. The way that Trump operates is that he completely dominates the entire news cycle every single time he does anything. So, it was quiet for a couple weeks while they were setting this up. So I expect that now that the tariff war, that, by the way, I love that everyone's still talking about China and the tariff war and completely ignoring the fact that he left on the 10% tariff and has now raised $500 billion in revenue for the federal government without telling anybody. And everyone's okay with it. That's the best part. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Just don't do the other thing. And they're like, well, we'll still buy. It's amazing to watch how that worked. So, but which is also exactly what I said was going to happen, by the way. We were going to hit China and we were going to keep the 10% on everybody. That was going to be the end of it.
So
go ahead.
You don't know this, Walt, and I can't divulge too much because it's a private working group, but I work with a lot of immigration hawks inside of DC in a working group. Take a look at the post I just shared up in the nest. This is fantastic. So this is from William Wolf. He does a lot of stuff for immigration. He's the executive director for Center for Baptist Leadership, and obviously part of Heritage Action, Trump appointee at state and DOD. William's a great guy, but he shared this post from the acting ICE director. So Donald Trump's acting ICE director compared his vision for mass deportations to Amazon's delivery system, saying the agency should operate like Prime, but with human beings.
I mean, listen, you have no idea how many people are going to freak out once the real deportation, the mass deportation.
Oh shit, William's here.
Oh, really?
William, come up. Yeah, come up, man. I just sent you a request.
Oh,
good to see you, man. Yeah. What's up, William?
What's up?
Hey, Will.
Hello. Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We're talking about all the happenings with immigration this week.
Well, there's a lot to cover. Keep going. I'll chime in. I'll let you finish that sentence there, though.
That's great close. Go ahead, Walt. Sorry.
Well, the deal is that I can't wait to see the media has been waiting on the immigration story because when the true mass deportations start happening, by the way, if you guys go back and watch and look at what the mainstream media has been talking about, they said they've been focusing on getting their storytelling ready. They want to make sure that they're ready to tell stories. So prepare yourselves for floods of crying grandmothers and children on every single airwave once this starts, because that's exactly what it's going to be. They're going to make sure that's published on every single news channel, on every single thing. It's going to be a crying grandma, saying that I've been here for 20 years. Like, well, maybe you should have fucking registered then. But, that's what it's going to be. So that's the next phase of this. But I think we're about to reach the point where they've really hit after the hardened criminals, and now they're setting up the actual mass deportation part. And if it's really like Prime but with human beings, that is going to piss them off beyond all belief.
No, listen, no holds barred. And this is something that I was talking about last week. And William, I want to come to you on this.
Yeah,
but
great.
I was talking about this last week on Friday. Again, I hate hearkening on this, but I was telling people, look, let them have public melties. Let them use their PR machine. Let them spin out of control. Let them lose their minds on the stock market. Let them drain all of their political capital on chasing a bunch of things that don't matter. So when you come back crying wolf again with the abuelas crying, or and my family was broken up with this story that's going to pop up in the Atlantic, or this story that's going to pop up in Washington Post, people are going to be like, yeah, whatever, man. We've been hearing you crying wolf now forever. Like, it's not going to work. And this is the time to double down, period. We have a year or two tops to really put things in motion, to get things settled. And we get another 2 years if we somehow make it through the midterms to get this implemented. And if things trend the right direction and things move the right direction, it really won't matter what Chucky Schumer or anybody else is crying about. But William, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, you're exactly right in terms of the crying stories. And there's folks in here who might not be particularly familiar with a lot of my emphasis, but I work really at the intersection of faith and politics. And if you're not, and primarily focused on the evangelical Christian world, and if you're not paying attention to that space, what they are doing and have been doing since Trump was elected is they're just trying to turn the heat up using essentially fake Christian sympathy to try to undercut Trump's immigration policies. And organizations like Christianity Today, World Relief, the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, the National Association of Evangelicals, these are all left-leaning Christian organizations. And they did this study, and it's completely cooked and it's bunk, but it's been making the rounds saying that possibly 10 million Christians across America, self-identified Christians, I guess, could be subject to Trump's deportations. And they're really trying to just scare churches into it. But really, when you get underneath it, what it is they're making this insane argument that somehow being a self-identifying Christian grants you like a global passport to just, transgress America's sovereignty and break the rule of law. And that's just absurd. So my organization has been working to really counter that. I mean, it's so basic. You think Christians, wherever you are in the world, you should respect laws unless they're unjust, of course. Well, our immigration laws are very just. And I don't care if you're a Christian, a Hindu, or a Muslim. If you're here illegally, you need to go. And I don't care how many churches you get crying about it, you still need to go. And so we are doing hand-to-hand combat with that like fake liberal Christian front that's working to undermine Trump's immigration policy on this.
No, and William, I 1,000% agree, right? It's that same weaponized empathy that we saw creep into our institutions, right? It was education, right? That's the big one, right? Because it's the people who worship the state of tomorrow. We have to weaponize empathy today. And then we use that old tactic where you either pit the student against their parents, or the parents capitulate and they go along with the messaging that's going on in schools. Now it's made its way into the churches. We've seen this time after time. I've got some friends that are, they're like Reformed Baptists and Calvinists and things like that. And they've been screaming about it for years. And kind of, for me, I wasn't really in that lane. So I didn't really understand it until I really, really saw it. But the thing is that when you hear people like William speaking, and many other people that are within the administration and people that are working outside this administration and organizations, what I am hearing are stiff spines. What I'm not seeing is squishiness. I'm seeing squishiness, but the stiff spines are winning out over on. And that's why we just got to double those spines. I mean, Sav, you worked on the campaign, and like, you know how all this goes. And so what I'm seeing through groups and organizations and some of the stuff that I've been, privileged enough to work with people on are stiff spines. And we haven't seen that for some time. And it's great, William, like for you, and I'm not here to try to like buff you up or anything, but like, religion, especially organized religion and Christianity or whatever kind of religion where that attack factor is, the stiffer the spine there, and the greater the faith, we can actually return to a moral and principled and just society we once built in this country. I mean, you can go back to John Adams, right? Moral and religious people.
I was just about to say, yep. But on top of that, William, I spoke to another organization today that works with evangelical groups and also the police, because they give guidance and faith to police, active duty police, and their families. And one thing that they are finding are these same organizations that you mentioned are also undermining police force. They will not align with certain faith or organizations that help out police because they say that they're, that would really wreck with their urban outreach, but It's not. I mean, they're funded by these bigger NGOs, these bigger organizations that are undermining what Trump is trying to do, and also with
Savvy, we're losing you.
the
You're breaking up a bit.
It really is sad. Oh, and
Yeah, you're rubber banding a bit.
Downpours.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's almost as if there's a thunderstorm going on right now, Sav, that you're driving through.
It's a torrential downpour.
Okay. I mean, yeah, quick response to that would be, you know, it's I mean, it's really good to glad to jump in here because it's there's been this co-opting of, you know, the Christian religion and even Catholics too. I mean, and I you know, counting Catholics as Christian there. So evangelicals and Catholics that like promote the undermining of laws in America on behalf of, like, you know, essentially whether it's minority groups or immigrant groups. It's like CRT essentially applied to like immigration policy, policing, and things like that. There's just like, you don't get a pass on that. And it's ironic, when COVID was happening, everyone was saying, you know, they would quote this passage from the New Testament, Romans 13, about respecting authorities, which is true and that's good. But they would say, like, respect the governing authorities and like wear the mask and do the social distancing and close your churches and get the clot shot. But now it's time to respect the authorities and, like, you know, get your illegal alien rear out of our country. And it's like, whoa, hold on, you know, that doesn't apply there. Really? I'm pretty sure it does.
They're hypocrites. They don't actually believe in anything they said. There are zero principles there.
No truth but power.
Well, guys, I do have not exactly great news here. I'm sure everybody saw the footage today of the helicopter crash in New York City. Well, it looks like they just released the details of that. Looks like they were on a helicopter tour of the city, and all of the family, including 3 kids, 4, 5, and 11, all died in the accident. So that's horrible news and a tragedy. Pray for that family. That is an absolute. I saw the footage of it. It looks like the damn helicopter just, like, the rotors just came straight off of it.
So you're talking about, I'm sorry, when I was coming up and I didn't hear what you said because you have a moment of no audio. Are you talking about the helicopter in New York?
Yeah.
Oh.
They just released the details. Looks like it was a tech executive and his family on a helicopter tour. And none of them survived. So horrible news, but that's
Did you hear about the 2 American Airlines planes that clipped each other's wings at Reagan today?
I did hear about that. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a rep on the on one of the flights, and of course he then blamed Trump, which, you know, no surprise there.
Well, there were a couple, and what I could find on the news, obviously, were the ones that were speaking up were the Democrats.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we can go back to other news, but I just wanted to bring that to people's attention because that is it's a horrible tragedy. So.
Yeah, it was.
So Walter, I created. Excuse me, just for a second, Trash. I created a meme that with the CPB1 app, and I said safe and secure for deportation.
I love it,
and I support this with my tax dollars.
I love it. Go ahead, Trash.
I know.
Yeah, I lost my place. It's okay.
That's all right. Anyway, make sure you guys share the space out. So we are going to go for another couple hours here. Let's see what else is going on. How quickly do we think the SAVE Act will go into the Senate? And do you think they'll actually get something done? That's the next question.
Well, I mean, you know, the pressure is going to have to be on John Thune. I need to ask around what the feeling on the Hill is, what as they're whipping, what's going on with that. I haven't seen a whole lot come out about it, other than the fact that, you know, married women can't vote, and people of color are not going to be able to vote, and no one's going to be able to vote, and we're all going to be wearing. All the women are going to be wearing red robes with white robes. I don't know.
Listen, I look good in red. I look good in red. Okay.
We're repealing the 19th apparently with the SAVE Act.
Well,
I want to get a question on the Hill.
I have a question for that, because when his session ends, it's when does session end? Does anyone know the date?
No, I do not know. But
They just got back.
Yeah, they just got back from a short recess, so I
Right.
think they're there for.
I was about to say, I think they're there for a minute, so we'll see it. I would imagine fairly quickly.
I've got some intel on the SAVE Act. So coming out of the
I figured you
House
would.
and going to the Senate, it would have to go through the Senate Rules Committee first. And apparently McConnell has said that he's not going to have anything to do with it. He's not going to advance it through the proper committee procedure.
Of course he did.
Right. And so what they're going to have to do, and they've done this maneuver with another bill, is they are just going to have to bring it right to the floor. And so that brings it back to the guy you just mentioned there, which is Senator Thune. So Thune is going to have to, the pressure should be on him. And I would argue sort of like if there's messaging and pressure on the Senate, it needs to be focused at Senator Thune needs to get the SAVE Act to the floor using whatever procedures are at his disposal for a vote, as soon as possible, because McConnell's going to jam it up, and obviously the prospects aren't good at all in terms of breaking the filibuster on it. But there's, it's worth a debate. And I would say the Senate should take a lot of time to really hammer this and debate it publicly for the people to see.
I agree, but here's
a question for you.
Hang on, Andrew. Please let me get a thought out. Here's my thought on this, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And I want to get everybody's take up here because everybody up here seems to know a little bit about what's going on. I mean, I know you guys personally, so I know you guys know what's going on. But I got to be honest with you, man. I think the days of we can't set that precedent because it'll be used against us are long gone, because they just use a precedent against us regardless. I think we Harry Reid the damn thing. But I think that a public debate, as far as public sentiment is concerned, so it can't be spun into some other, even though they're going to try and they're going to do it anyway, but it won't have quite the effect if there is public debate on it. And there is at least a general populace that doesn't necessarily pay attention to these type of procedural things, will be a little bit more informed than it's just ripping the Band-Aid off, saying, you know what, kill the filibuster, nuke it, we're going to put this through, we're going to jam it through. Although my gut tells me that that's exactly what we need to do. Living through the last, I don't know, 13 years? That's what we need to do? Because if we don't, they will anyway. I got to be honest with you, stiff spines, guys.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Trash. I think the days of we need to be nice and practical with the Democrats because precedent is precedent and whatnot, I think those days have ended. And I'm pretty sure that they ended when they tried to throw our president in prison. And as far as I'm concerned,
it ended when they tried to kill our president.
Well, it was already over before that. I mean, they were trying to. I think it was over before that. I mean, listen, trying to jail the chief political rival in the middle of an election and tying him up in like 100 court cases in multiple different states and prosecuting every single person that he knows and every single person that sort of knows him. Like if you spoke to Donald Trump in a bathroom in 1996, then you probably got prosecuted and got served papers. Like, I mean, it really was that extensive. And I think that was the end of all precedent in my eyes. So, but again, I don't know because it does. I think they would end the filibuster in a second, though, Trash. I agree with you. I think that's really what this would lead to. If they take power again, they will immediately do that. The problem I have, the one problem I have with that is that even if we did end the filibuster, our representatives, the GOP representatives, will not take it as far as we would. So, even if we did end the filibuster, they would immediately, they would only go, do a couple things with it, whereas the Democrats would just take it and run with it to the hills. I mean, they will go after every single possible thing they can with it. So I don't know. It's a tenuous situation in my eyes. I still think it would be better to cream them in the Senate and let it be open debate and show that, what are you really going to stand against this act? Whether or not they end the filibuster over it, I don't know. But for this specific deal, for making sure that our elections are secure, I'm not really sure there's something better than that if you were going to break precedent.
Well, and I want to get Savvy's take on this and Will's take as well as everybody else. But I would just like to remind people that, Kristi Noem does have this ball in her court. All these provisional Social Security cards that were issued so they could work. And then the additional Social Security numbers through the HAB system that were issued, I think is something that we can discuss. But I think that that's the shot across the bow already. Right? That's already the shot across the bow. So ending the filibuster and dealing with the fallout on MSNBC and CNN about authoritarian regime and tyranny and all this nonsense, I think that shot's already been made. And I think that a reciprocal nuke the filibuster, whip the votes, get it across the finish line to the president's desk, I think is the way forward here at this point. Like, I am not willing to go back and fight again like I have been the last 10 years in these battlefields of nonsense and squishes and accommodations and standing on principle while every principle and morality of the country has been stripped beneath my feet. I don't know that I'm willing to do that at this point. I'm willing to rip that Band-Aid off, do that, and then put protections in place so we can't do it in the future. That's really the play. But I want to get you guys' take on that too.
Oh, no, you know me, and I think everyone in here, I am tired of the bullshit. And I'm sorry, that's all it is. I would end the filibuster, I would whip it and get it to the president's desk. I would strong arm each and every one of them because, again, we're used to fallout on the mainstream media. Trump capitalized on the news. And I mean, I don't see that part of being effective as being on this side. We do not have time to waste. I mean, if you think about it, because with midterms coming up, like we have got to get every single thing we can do and as quickly as we can to the president's desk, have him sign it into law, bing, bang, boom, on to the next.
Do you, though, worry that, like Walter said, first of all, that if the Democrats, when they retake power, and it's inevitable, probably, who knows, I hope it's not for a long time, but they will do far more damage than Republicans will do with the 51 vote majority. And I don't even have confidence that Collins, Murkowski, I just don't think that Collins, Murkowski, McConnell, I think they'd submarine stuff on purpose just to screw Trump, even with that majority. That's what worries me.
Well, McConnell's out. So
well, I'm saying now. I'm saying over the next 2 years while he is still there, they'll submarine everything they can just to spite Trump, just like McCain did. They're all one and the same.
Well, that's two, right? So Collins, Murkowski, and well, that's three. So Collins, Murkowski, and McConnell, right? So your tie-breaking vote is still the vice president.
I understand that, but I'm sure we could find another one, Trash, and we might be missing one who's almost just as bad as those three.
Well, it depends on the policy. I mean, if it goes against Rand Paul's libertarian values, he may break. But I mean, I doubt it.
I'm just saying, I do worry. Walt made a good point that the Democrats, though, we know how they operate. If they get that 51 vote majority with no filibuster, they will absolutely ram everything through, probably within a month. So that's the only thing that worries me. Remember, when Harry Reid did that, Mitch McConnell actually said to him, "You're going to rue the day."
We all knew. Yeah, we all knew. I remember. And I was like, "You're gonna regret that."
And it actually worked out for us because that Trump was able to get. I mean, Barrett's been a disaster, but he never would have got a Gorsuch or a Kavanaugh through, or even a Barrett, based on her reputation. Without that,
we are not the same. We are not the same general politique as we were back then. I mean, for God's sakes, Liz Cheney and the rest of the establishment fake Republicans joined in to support Kamala Harris. Like, the realignment is here. And what I'm concerned about is this realignment could be stalled should you allow the establishment to do what they do. I mean, my God, Savvy can tell you about Georgia, for God's sakes, and what the Georgia GOP and what a wreck it is. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced and again, I want people who have experience on the Hill. Williams up here, you could probably give us some insight on this. There's a lot of people that are smarter than me. I'm just a stupid raccoon on the internet. But
yeah, I mean, what I would say is that, like, in some point, it's a moot debate because, like, I just know for a fact, like, there are not the votes in the GOP Senate conference to nuke the legislative filibuster. Like, we're not even close. I mean, if you actually put that out there and you got 20 of the Senate Republicans to vote in favor of that, I would be shocked. But that's not weighing in on the merits of it, which I see a lot of pros and cons on both sides. But the larger point I want to make is, of course, the Democrats would be worse with it because the truth is they're a post-institutional party, right? It is totally just will to power. They don't care about a single historic American political institution, be it the Senate or the Supreme Court or Congress or the executive branch. Their only benchmark for whether or not a quote unquote institution is working is if it gives them the outcomes that they want. And so Republicans absolutely need to wrestle with that. How do we posture ourselves? We can't just keep appealing to institutional norms when they're literally like, bombing the institutions around us. And so do we get to a point where we have a conference that's willing to fight in this post-institutional space? I don't know. And I would say I'm very inclined to the argument that if there's anything we would do it on, we would do it on something like the SAVE Act, because if we could tighten up our election systems and actually get legitimate voting, same day verified American citizens, well, then the left probably would not win again for a while. So if I was a senator and you came to me and said, we've got the votes to nuke the filibuster and we're going to get the SAVE Act over because of it, I mean, I can't imagine I would not support that because of how critical it is. It's just, we still have so much work to do in getting better Republican America First senators in there. It's still an uphill battle.
Well, and that's my point specifically, is that if there was one thing that I would say it's worth doing on, this would be it for that specific reason. And I think that's the only, if you're going to whip this on the Hill, that's how I would whip it. I would say, look, it doesn't, I know the norms are important in institutions, blah, 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 whatever you want to say, because you're a weasel and you don't want to be a fighter, fine, whatever. But the reality is that this is probably the most important bill that we could actually do that with. Actually getting fair elections, making sure that the national elections across the country are not allowing fraudulent votes. I mean, the deal is that the Democrats are freaking out about this because for a pretty damn good reason. I mean, they know that they're going to lose lots of votes, lots. They know they're going to lose tons of people from their voter rolls, and they are losing their minds over that. I mean, the question really becomes, how many votes will they really lose? But based on what I've seen, I mean, the protests this past weekend, by the way, they were all protesting, saying we need to make sure we stop the SAVE Act. That was part of their protests over that weekend. They don't want the SAVE Act passed. So they're already mobilized against the SAVE Act, even though it doesn't do anything to harm any of their legitimate voters. But that's irrelevant to them. They know that it's going to harm their fraudulent voters. So if that's going to be something to whip on the Hill, that would be the one thing that I would argue for it. Whether or not you can actually convince that many senators, I agree with you, William. The problem is I think you'd probably lose 15 or 20 of them immediately.
Well, but I want you to consider something. Let's put the other shoe on for a moment. What do we know is coming up in 2030? A redrawing of congressional districts, right? That's coming up in 2030 because due to census data, right? And the big move post-COVID, and that's House, that's not Senate, right? We know it's two senators per state, but my point is that there is a demographic shift, and by 2030, you're going to have more. In my opinion, you're going to have more frontline Democrat senators, which is why people like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, many of these people saw the writing on the wall, where they were contesting basically a wave that were coming their way as frontline senators and reps, where they were in purplish, they were in swing, they were in a lot of pressure to be moderate, but just have a D behind your name. Joe Manchin comes to mind, people like that. The Blue Dog Democrats, the unions who are all breaking for America First. They're on the other side of that. They see their timeline as well as dwindling. And what concerns me the most about these people whom have basically created the modern Democrat Party is that there is no truth but power, and they will use any means necessary to maintain or take power. That when you're cornered, you're going to do a lot of bad stuff. But they have their own time clock as well, and so this big gamble on the trade on the trade deficits and the tariffs and the tax policy and getting all this stuff through, that gamble I believe Trump will win. I think it was a hell of a gamble, but he's the only one that had the cojones to do it. But there is another side to that coin, and they're looking at the future and saying, even if they took short-term gains, there's going to be a lot of frontline senators. And those frontline senators and reps are going to have to make some decisions. And that should be part of the conversation as well when whipping up these votes and pushing on senators. So because there's a lot of shaky ground underneath that Democrat Senate. not just the Republicans, which we have a little bit, but we seem to be galvanizing a little bit better. And we're kind of pushing out the old, Kay Granger, she's gone out of the House. We got Kevin McCarthy, he's gone out of the House. We've got Mitch McConnell, he's leaving. Hopefully Alaska can get their shit together. Murkowski would be gone if they can get rid of ranked choice voting. There's a lot of stuff that are moving parts that are going right now. And the shoe on the other foot, I believe that they feel like they're up against the wall as well. And so I think the push should be on frontline senators. And we can probably sit here and name a few. I mean, even Collins is one of them. Maine's a weird place. But anyway.
Well, there's also, I do want to get to some hands here, but there is the other aspect that we know that we're going to start to see some of these senators get replaced in 26. I mean, we've got Ken Paxton going up against Cornyn in Texas.
Which he seems to be smashing him, right?
Yeah. I misspoke the other night, and I was saying, because I mix up Cornyn and Thune a lot, because I don't see any difference between the two of them. But
Thune's a little better, but I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I see zero difference between the two. They're the same person. It's like that meme, like, what's the difference in these pictures? It's the same picture.
Well, Thune at least kissed the ring, so he's a little bit better.
True. But anyway, so Cornyn is probably going to get slapped by Paxton. I think Paxton's going to crush him. He's very popular. My guess is that Trump will support him 100%. The other night I was saying, I mixed up the two, and I was saying, well, I don't know if he can go after Cornyn because that he's the leader of the Senate, and I was wrong about that. So didn't need to correct that. But Andrea, go ahead, and then we've got Mech Tensa afterwards. So go ahead, Andrea.
And thanks, Walter. I just want to say, yeah, I think we should, do a public campaign as far as the senators, make sure that they vote for this. But because I moved last year to another state, my state required me, in order to register my vehicle and to register to vote, I had to show my birth certificate, my social security card, and my marital status, because my name had changed a couple times throughout my life. So it was really rigorous. I support this 100%. I walked out of the location where I was at, and I was like, thank God for my governor, because I know at least my elections here are a little bit more secure, especially my state is one of the states that gets flooded and has been flooded with illegals. So the message needs to come out. I'm a woman. I want it. It was a little bit more work. I had to make sure I had all my documentation, but I got it done. So anyone can do it. The other thing is, I'm a little bit, I have a question too. I'm a little bit concerned about if we just like ram it through, 51 votes, don't go for, whatever the rules are, because we saw what the Democrats wanted to do pre-Biden and during Biden's time. They were pushing for 2 more states. They were pushing to expand the Supreme Court, and they were pushing for what was that voting bill, HR 1 or something like that?
It was a John Brown voting bill.
Yeah. So, I'd be afraid to see, what they would do if or when they get a simple majority. My last question is, I don't understand why McConnell has anything to do with procedure within the Senate right now, since he has his
Money.
Cognitive ability is not really there anymore, and he's retiring. So I don't understand that. And that's all. Thank you.
And that was kind of the purpose of Trump's very, very boisterous speech at the NRCC. So we'll see.
I didn't hear that speech. When was it?
A few days ago.
What did he say, Trash?
Well, I'm not going to recount it. We got a couple of hands, but just go check out Trump's NRCC speech.
Yeah, it was that speech was fantastic.
Oh, Jinx, you owe me a Coke, Walter.
Go ahead, Mac Tensa.
Yeah, appreciate it. Just real quick and sweet, I think that you have to ram it through and get the 51 votes, because they will when they're in power next time. It's ridiculous. The whole standing on principle and the whole, we're going to do the right thing, we're going to take the high road. That's been a strategy that has caused Republicans to lose every single time back to back for the last 35 years. So it's time to just stick it to them. And the point is, even if they use it against us, I don't know. I can't speak for everyone else in the room. I can only speak for myself. I'm about as far right as you can get. I'm the most diehard Trumper, literally on the board, on the Trump train before he even hit the escalator, right? Never looked back. My thing is, even if they get in power, even if they use it against us, I don't care. Because if the policies suck, if the country tanks, it just pushes the Civil War a little bit faster. It just pushes the in your face, look, the Democrats are ruining the country a little bit faster. Everything accelerates today because the speed of information. When something happens, I know about it within 3 minutes. I don't have to turn on the TV. I don't have to read a newspaper. I know about it, and all my coworkers and everyone within 3 feet of me knows about what just happened within 3 minutes of it happening. Even with the recent stock stuff the last few days, that's my world. I'm TradFi. Oh, why did the stock market just reverse? Literally on a dime. Well, let me check Twitter. Here's why. These 3 bullet points. The speed of information, the polarization of America, it's all in a good direction. So let's get the country on track. The people will see that it's on track. Force the agenda through. If it doesn't work, cool. They'll vote someone else in. And then when they get to push their policies, guess what? If they don't work, we'll either vote somebody else in or it will be go time. That's just it. Like the speed of information is so fast, you can't slow play anything anymore. So I'm very happy to see the turtle is on his way out.
Well, and again, I would like to stress and premise this. I do want to see the process and constitutionally go through. Right, I would like to see that through. However, we don't even have to have a conversation. We've already won the argument. We don't need to win the argument anymore. Now we need to win the procedure. And so normally I would be one of the people that would be resistant upon anything about nuking the filibuster or anything else. Nope, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to jam anything through. We need to work and we need to get it through. However, you can't do that if you have unfair, ridiculous elections. Like it's not even a real republic at that point. So knowing what I know, and I believe someone brought this up, I think maybe Mech brought this up. We saw what they had planned to do leading into if they were to take power, expanding the Supreme Court, packing the court, adding additional states that adds additional representatives that like DC and Puerto Rico and everything else. We obviously know how that's going to end up, and that's permanent power. And so if I guess, again, I come back to my whole point of stiffening our spines and saying, well, now's the time to plant your feet and actually put things through that where we can make a change, make a difference, and try to rebalance this, because otherwise there are sharks in the water and blood is everywhere. So I think that that's the way. But again, in this specific instance, and it may bite us in the butt, but I think that we have to be diligent in trying to put protections in the future that will be constitutional, that will pass constitutionally, that we can actually maintain and codify. Because the reality is, from what I know, nobody really wants to do anything. They just want to campaign on it. That's the old way of doing business. So once this happens and we're able to, codify some of this stuff, you're going to have to retool and reorganize. And I think that's the entire point of what's been going on, all the last stuff. But I'll shut up now. If anybody wants to add in, Walt, anybody?
Yeah, Trash, the whole point of kind of what I'm saying, and you hit it in spurts there, is the messaging to the Senate, the messaging to the House needs to be the Americans, the popular vote voted this agenda. They voted it in. They want shit done. They want it pushed. They want it cross the finish line. They want to give it a shot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We try something else. But this is exactly what we voted for, was radical change, not status quo. And when I go to work, my boss expects me to actually get work done. I don't get to stare at my computer and think, you know what, I'm going to debate work in front of my boss so my boss sees me thinking about work. And then I'm going to come up with the best way to do the work, maybe eventually 6 months from now. That's not how work happens. The average American goes to work and has to do something today. You have a job to accomplish. You're on the hook to get it accomplished because that's what you're tasked to do by your boss. We're the boss. We've tasked them for radical change. We've tasked them to pass an agenda. It was a mandate. If we didn't win the popular, I might be speaking with a different tone. But this is all across the board. This is exactly what the American people said is, hey, get in there and do your damn jobs. So that's doing your job, being efficiency. Doge, the fact that we ran on Doge and won with Doge, this is Doge, but for the bureaucracy. No, we don't need your decorum. No, we don't need your presentation and bowing and powdered white wigs. Just get in there, raise your damn hand, talk about the bill and say yes or no, and get it done. So it's a messaging issue that we need to get across to the senators that the blue collar worker has to get something done today. So now we're expecting you to do the exact same. No more status quo. Get it done.
Speaking of status quo being shattered into a million pieces, looks like the Crossfire hurricane files were just dropped just now.
Yeah, I'm looking for them, Walter.
What?
Yeah.
Well, so they were given to
Well, Aaron, before you go on, I got to hop off because I have a slight
All right.
roof leak.
what?
So with
I just saw your text.
yes.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
I
The
have a slight-
farmhouse is dying.
The farmhouse is farmhousing currently.
Where is Vivi and
The
where-
horse cat? I don't know,
okay.
but she is not here. But Shelby is also freaking out. But I do have a roof leak, so
right.
this is gonna be fun. I love you, Walt.
Okay.
Thank you so much for co-host. Trash, Will, thank you, everyone. Mech, Opinion, y'all are awesome. And okay, love y'all. Gotta go.
Okay.
Later, Sav.
Bye.
So what's the deal here with this? Looks like somebody has been given a binder of it, or what's the deal here?
Yeah.
I think-
Go ahead.
Just the news.
The Federalist
Yeah, I think
has
Sean,
it. Okay.
Sean Davis has them.
Sean's got it. Yeah. Sean's got it.
Interesting.
Sean Davis. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Sean Davis of the Federalist has it. Yeah.
Oh, he just dropped all of it just now. 20
Did he?
minutes ago, he just
Let me
dropped
go
all the
look.
files. Yeah. So this is pretty big news, guys. I'm very curious to see this. Unredacted, and it looks like, wait a minute, it says redacted binder. Okay, so this is going to be quite a bit of information to go through. So this is going to take a lot of effort, but I'm going to scroll through here. Go ahead, Indy, while I'm going to look and see what else I can find in here, because I'm very, very familiar.
Yeah. And to be clear, Sean Davis dropped the entire drop. So he's given links to all the separate files. So matter of fact, I need to dig through that tonight too as well.
Yeah. So go ahead, Indy, go ahead and talk, and I'm going to look through some of those.
Hey, what's up, Walter? Hey, what's up, Trash? How you been? Good to see you.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, yeah. So I just wanted to chime in on your, this is the SAVE Act and so forth. I mean, look, as much as anybody would want it, pragmatically, the filibuster, the Republicans are not going to nuke the filibuster and do that, and we just know that it's just not going to happen. As a active independent, I know that independents would revolt against either party that did that. They both know that. And the Democrats might do it, like you say, as a last gasp effort because, they're drowning they're in quicksand, whatever metaphor you want to pull. But it's the Republicans aren't going to, whoever's on top isn't going to do it. Somebody's going to do it as a last gasp effort if they feel like they're losing oxygen and drowning. So that's my opinion of that. So on the other hand, this is a winning proposition for the right. This is a vast majority of Americans are in favor of requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. It's not even close. And there are others. So, you're going to win one more time in public by having public debate on the floor and so forth. You're going to force the Democrats to oppose something like men and women's sports and everything else they oppose that are 80-20 issues. This one's probably not 80-20. It's probably more like 70-30, something like that. And force them to oppose yet again. Now, but in order to the ticket, of course, is to force is to get rid of fake votes, right? Is to get rid of the cheating, which we all know has happened. Everyone knows it's happening. A lot of people just want to lie about it. So let's just call a spade a spade. But there's a lot of other ways to do that. And I can just attest, as a former manager at a medium-sized PEO in the US and employed, upwards of 200,000 employees through the PEO structure, which is also, formerly known as employee leasing, where a company hires a bunch of people and gives them, on behalf of other companies. This was a blue-collar PEO for work, lower rate workers' compensation was the primary driver. And when we had to hire the people. And when we did employee checks, which is even in California, it's required to run a Social Security check. You run it through the Social Security system and it gives you these codes, in response. This person's dead. This person's already using it, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. And the only time they were disqualified is if, like I said, they were dead. And then you didn't even disqualify the employee at that point. You just say, oh, you must be a transcription error. Give us a new one. They give you a new one. And the only other time that the employee would be disqualified is if it was already in that company's system. In other words, somebody else in the system's already on our own system, our own employees already using this. And then it would be, oh, you must have transcribed it wrong. Give us a new one. And then so everyone got hired and it was on some sham basis. So this is what's going on in the country, right? Is employers are hiring illegal immigrants and giving them access to Social Security numbers that can be used for all sorts of things in the U.S. And the government in Washington is afraid to crack down on that. And it's the easiest thing to do. It's the most direct route to deportation. And they won't do it because their constituents are small business owners, medium-sized business owners, and even large public companies. And that's to me, it's astonishing. Like, it's so easy to do to get the vast majority of the people out of here because they have to submit a Social Security number in order to work. They all want to work. So what? They won't get their benefits. It goes to somebody else that owns the number. Great. That's why the person gave the goddamn number in the first place. But that, and so to me, that's an example. I'm not suggesting that's the end all of all the, troubles, but there's a lot of ways that the government can go about getting rid of illegal immigrants who are clearly voting in our elections. And, the SAVE Act is one of them. It's the most direct route. But, to the extent that any Republican opposes it, they're going to get skewered. But, it's going to be a longer term fight, in my opinion. We don't jump the gun and, it's not going to happen anyway, but I'm not even in favor of the Republicans jumping the gun and saying, hey, nuke the filibuster, because the long-term damage, it's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah, William, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go here after this, but I think I appreciate Indy's comments there. I think they are helpful, and with tying this all back together, what I would leave the space is that what we need absolutely is for leadership in the House and leadership in the Senate to be going 100 miles per hour on doing the best they can to take Trump's agenda and turn it into, enacted law that will stand the test of time and withstand his administration and beyond. And by doing so, demonstrating a track record of opposition from the Democrats, particularly the ones who are in swing districts in the House and in the Senate races that are up in the states that Trump won, which are only 2 when it comes to the 2026 cycle, but one of those is definitely winnable, which is Georgia for sure. And so it's like the one thing they should be doing is we should be debating and voting on the SAVE Act and everything else. And we've been stalling, quite frankly. I mean, I've been to DC quite a few times since he took over, and they are not operating at pedal to metal speed whatsoever. And so like that's sort of the general framework is for the next 18 months here, is that they're doing everything they can to put his agenda into law, and the bills that fail, every single one gives something for Republicans to run on and hopefully pull off sort of the impossible, which is we come out of the 2026 midterms with increased numbers in the House, and maybe we pick up a few more seats in the Senate, and we don't lose it in the midterms and then have to fight hand-to-hand combat for the last 2 years of Trump's final term in office here, unless he runs for a third time, of course. But like I think that there's a way that we could approach this comprehensively and aggressively that gives us a chance to win in 2026. And that's what I'm not seeing. So before I would ever get to saying nuke the filibuster, I want to see that. And what concerns me most right now is that that's not what we're seeing from the House and the Senate.
No, listen, William, I appreciate you coming up, by the way. And obviously we'll talk more, but no, that I agree 1000%. I don't want to do that. Matter of fact, I think the messaging should be there. I think we'll pick up Georgia, right? I think we'll pick Kemp. And we will pick up a few races, but that's what I was talking about with the frontline Congress people. We need to be applying pressure there because the trend is in that direction. We just need to push. And to your point, and that's what I was saying, business as usual is not going to cut it anymore. I appreciate you coming up. Really, I do. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great to be here, guys. Really appreciate your work, Trash. And Walter, thank you for hosting. Great to meet some new folks here. And let's keep fighting for this country. It's, we only have a limited time to do it here, so let's make the most of it. Have a good night, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming, William, and make sure you be following you after this. So,
oh, yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Make sure everyone's following William.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. All right, well, sorry about that. I thought that was important to be able to hash that out.
Absolutely. Well, the good thing is that little bit there gave me enough time to read about 60 pages of this dump. So this is ridiculous, Trash. They have documented proof that the FBI was paying Steele.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was waiting for it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they paid him directly. So the FBI was paying him as a confidential human source specifically in directing him on what kind of information they wanted him to get. So
wait till you find out the FBI was directly paying the confidential human source for the accelerationism that led to a outgrowth on the internet for mass casualty events. Wait till you find that out because that's coming too, by the way.
Oh yeah, wait till there's going to be a lot more for me to read through, but it's already pretty bad. So
it's bad. It's actually really bad. There's a couple pieces in here I was reading too myself. I was trying to kind of help you run the room a little bit because I knew you were diving into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking for a couple of pieces, a couple missing pieces because look, John Solomon. Okay, to be fair, I was trying to think of John Solomon, not Sean Davis. Sean Davis just put this out, 30 minutes ago. John Solomon had it at Just the News this morning, I believe, but I didn't really get to go through it because I was working my normal job. But there's a few pieces that we don't have that we're looking for. And already, if you're seeing direct evidence inside that they were directly paying for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I've got. Let me get you the raw numbers here.
You got any Charles McGonigal stuff in there?
I'll tell you soon. I'm on the third one now. I'm running it. Reading as fast as I can, which is, that's my speed, as fast as I can possibly read.
Right, no, I get it.
While also dumping. So it looks like Christopher Steele was paid significant sums, $74,000, $89,000 for his intelligence that the FBI was specifically giving him. At one point, he was given directly $15,000 for a single meeting in Rome, where he was directed in what buckets of information that they were looking for.
But my question is chicken or the egg, right? So, like, if Hillary and Fusion GPS, if they brought this forward and they worked with London station chief, which was, by the way, Gina Haspel at the time, if they brought this forward and then, people like Charlie McGonigal, who was in charge, he was SAC, the second largest field office of the FBI in New York, was it chicken or the egg? So that's what I want to find out because, look, the FBI, I've seen plenty of documents, I've seen plenty of investigations that are going on right now, where the FBI is actually looking into people that are confidential human sources. I mean, my God. Anyway, never mind current cases. You could look back at Whitey Bulger, right? You can look at how the FBI had the black eye of Whitey Bulger. Well, they were paying him for basically false intel because John Connally was providing false intel to the FBI while he was working for the FBI, and not really actually bring any cases forward. There's many such cases of this because it was brought to superiors in regional offices, then brought to the SAC at various different field offices, and they started paying as a CHS informant. So I want to know if it's chicken or the egg. If it's chicken, then we have a serious egg problem.
Well, I'm now just got to Stephen Halper was also a paid confidential source for the FBI and paid enormous sums of money in the middle of 2016, September 2016, August 2016, and then an additional $25,000 in February of 2017. Looks like Halper's entire mission was to go after Carter Page. So that's what his mission was, directive. And it looks like from the documents here that he was intentionally speaking to Carter Page about interactions with high-ranking Russian officials, which Page consistently told him he didn't want anything to do with, but he continued to prompt him on it.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
I'm looking. Are you in? Were you in binder 1 or binder 2?
I'm in binder 3 right now.
Did you miss the Michael Gaeta stuff?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm just as fast as I can possibly read. So where's Michael Gavis? Is that binder 2?
Binder 2, Michael Gaeta.
Oh shit.
Holy crap.
What's in there on that?
Well, so like there's the standard CHS form where you basically go through and you answer the questions. You know, if you're going to be a confidential human source, answer these questions, yes or no. These are the admonishments of being a confidential human source. The header is Christopher Steele, Michael J. Gaeta, international operations of basically legal in Rome. So this is going back to Rome. But I'm looking at his application. That's fine. Checked yes for everything, and apparently it was crossed out. But there's handwritten notes in here saying provided verbally by person by LAAT Mike Gaeta on 125/16. So they're inserting what was supposed to be like verbal without any kind of receipts information as a confidential human source. Walt, we've got this is actually effing crazy.
Oh, dude, this is getting wilder by the second.
So, okay. So, company intelligence report looks like August 2016. U.S. presidential election, Republican candidate Donald Trump's activities in Russia and compromising relationship with the Kremlin. Summary, Russian regime has been cultivating, supporting, and assisting Trump for at least 5 years. Yeah, this is the entire reports that were generated off of Steele dossier, Michael Gaeta, CHS, verbal information. The reason for using WikiLeaks was plausible deniability, and the operation had been conducted with the full knowledge and support of Trump. And so they're alleging here that Trump used WikiLeaks to say, well, we don't know what you're talking about. WikiLeaks, I don't know what Julian Assange is doing. He's doing his own thing in WikiLeaks. This is the Paul Manafort stuff.
Right.
All right. Well, there's a lot here.
Yeah, there is a lot here. This is a wild draw. I mean, they just dumped this stuff out. Hands off to Davis, dude, for just putting the whole thing on there.
Yep. There's Flynn. There's Stein. There's Page. There's Ivanov.
Looks like number 4 is pretty heavily redacted.
Oh my God.
Yeah, a lot of this is talking about, looks like 4 is still going on mostly on about Carter Page and Stephen Halpin. Looks like that's mostly, so they referred to Carter Page as Dragon. That was his named.
Yeah, that was his code name. Yeah,
it was his code name in here, and Stephen Halper is referred to as Mitch. He was actively approaching, still trying to get the campaign associates to give a bunch of information, still trying to get them to talk about Russian funding, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, this is absurd, dude. Let me get to
when they say, are they talking about Michael Cohen?
Yes, Michael Cohen is mentioned multiple times in the number 2, I think.
Yeah, it's Michael Cohen.
Yeah, Cohen is mentioned in numerous times in 2, I believe. I'm now downloading number 5.
I know most of it. Yeah, I know most of this stuff here. Okay, we're at October 2016. I know most of the stuff.
Yeah, this is going to take a minute to go through fully, but I'm going to see if I can get kind of an overview. That's why I'm trying to go through. I'm on number 5 now.
Maybe we should actually probably go through this properly and have a space on this.
Yeah.
I'll get some of the sleuth corner in here. So like, Undead Foya, Full Nelson. Maybe we can get Hans Monkey in here.
Yeah, I think we need to. We should probably I honestly want to close the space and just read this whole fucking thing. Like that's what I want to do. So
yeah,
I think that's kind of necessary for this because just by the first 3 pages, the first 3 that I just read through, I mean, it's literally, we've got documented proof in here that they were paying the confidential human sources to get this information, which is damning enough. So I'm going to go through some more of this stuff, guys. Trash, I'll get with you and see if we can kind of. I'm sure someone's having a space specifically on this right now, where they're probably.
I guarantee you, they're probably not, because most of the people that hold spaces that have a large audience, they have no idea what any of this is. We've been going through this for like the last 10 years.
That's true.
Walter, I don't think anybody else can read as fast as you anyway, so I don't think anybody's having anything right now.
Yeah, I'm already on Binder 4 as well.
Hey, Walter, and Trash. So you might, I don't know what you guys are into in terms of AI bots and and so forth, but you could. I just did a quick query on it, and there's some stuff in there already from AI but that might be a very quick way to sort of if you were able to download it from some source.
Here's the problem with using AI for large document drops, which I tell this to everybody. The problem is that if you don't know what to ask and you don't know what you're looking for, like if you have to read the document first and see, like that's why I can quickly speed through these things, because then after I speed through it, then I can just throw those queries directly into AI and it'll give me the full printout from that section. So you have to.
That's what I'm suggesting. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I know, and I know both of you guys, and certainly I'm not, but I know both of you guys are well versed in that whole operation in depth. And so, yeah, my suggestion was just to potentially use AI to get to some of the roots of your question. Like Trash was saying, is there anything about this? Is there anything about that?
Well, what I'll do right now, since we already have an audience in here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep reading through this, and anything I see that I will bring it up, and we'll just discuss it as we're live doing it, because no one else will probably be able to do this right now. So why not? If you guys want to come up here and talk, welcome to come up and join us. If you're going through the same documents, we are looking at the Crossfire Hurricane drop that just came out. Sean Davis posted it. Let me put this up in the top so you can see the files specifically. Let me go do this real quick. I will put them down in the comments, and then I will.
Yeah. By the way, if I can make an announcement, so like running a website, running a company like the Federalist that Sean Davis does, it's not free. Having a Scribed account that you upload all these documents into Scribed so you can view them for free is not free. Highly recommend going over and following Sean Davis. Go follow the Federalist. Deserve the recognition of this, because he basically just said, all right, here you go, internet, go for it.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
And they paid for it. So not paid for it politically. They literally like monetarily paid for this. So go support them as well.
Absolutely.
This is wild.
Oh yeah. This is what we needed to see.
So they have it redacted. Look at this. So like go to Binder 7 on page 7.
Okay.
So if you notice, if you go there, you'll see that steel is in red. So basically what it was redacted, and then they added the name back in, or added the info back in red. So it was redacted, redacted, main redacted, and then unredacted, essentially unsealed, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's what they did. So when Trump ordered all this stuff released, he probably went through and immediately.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tulsi Gabbard was talking about this. She said she had 100 people on this thing.
Yeah.
Not to mention JFK and MLK. But yeah. Oh my God. Are you guys reading this stuff?
Yeah, this is amazing. Let's see here. Okay, so
listen to this. Near the end of the meeting, the DAG returned to several topics which had been previously discussed, including the controversy surrounding Mr. McCabe, which is Andy McCabe. This time raising the Circa news story, which was reported that Mr. McCabe had high-fived when Lieutenant General Flynn was fired and said pejorative things about President Trump. Mr. McCabe and I tried to explain how resoundingly this had been discounted, given the number of people who were purportedly in the room when it occurred. But the DAG explained he just wanted us to know that people told him about Mr. McCabe, which is Andy McCabe. He also mentioned that President had asked Adam Lee whether or not he was a Republican. And in this reference to Mr. McCabe's upcoming interview with President Trump, quote, or I'm sorry, in parentheses, which had not been scheduled and for which Mr. McCabe had no awareness, inexplicably yelled, "Do you think this is a real interview?" and suggested that he and Mr. McCabe would wear a wire to record the conversation. That's the General Flynn setup. That's the General Flynn setup. Right.
Oh my God.
There it is.
Oh my goodness, dude. This is just amazing. Okay, so I just got to Binder 7.
Dude, Binder 7's full of all kinds of toys.
Yeah, Binder 7 looks like this might be like the creme de la creme, to be honest with you.
There's stuff about Bruce Orr in there, and I see John McCain's name.
Oh yeah, Bruce Orr's all over this.
What's this in here?
Andy McCabe.
Hey, do you guys think? Let me quick question here. Timing of the release. Okay, so theoretically, with all the people in place, right, throughout the cabinet, FBI, DOJ, et cetera, a lot of this stuff can be dumped anytime they want, theoretically, right? Do you think they're just going to strategically drop this kind of stuff? Because there's plenty more of this. You could probably name it off the top 10 trash. I don't know where this would be on your list, but whatever.
Number 4.
Number 4. Okay, perfect. So my point is that what do you think the significance of the timing of this drop is?
Well, you had to set up in stages, right? You had to revoke security clearances that you therefore no longer had access to peering eyes inside with your moles and your ticks that you buried into the system. You then have to start to basically prep and plant seeds in the public that this stuff is coming. Give the letdown, right? The Epstein stuff. Everyone's still yelling about the Epstein stuff. I told you guys what happened there. I know what happened there. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. This is all in chronological order. So when you strip all the clearances and you've got the Office of Director of National Intelligence, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, coming out and saying that I have teams of people working on this, this, and this, they're just basically priming the public into understanding what's happening. This is chronological. All of this is chronological. Epstein is a kind of an outlier. I'm not sure how much is on paper that they could show versus, I don't know, assuming or nudging towards the truth, how much is actually on paper. But all of this, if you're dealing with a confidential human source and you're dealing with government employees and you believe that you had levels of protection all the way up to the floor 8, floor 7, then you would just put these in reports because everybody was on the same team. You never anticipated that Donald Trump would ever make it back into office again. Just go watch Frank Luntz's reply to, I never thought he would make it through all of this. Nobody thought he would. And so here we are. So there's a chronological element to this.
I understand, but having gone through all the steps to get to the point where they can release it, is there a strategic reason for dropping it tonight?
Investigations. Well, it's investigations overall. So those seem to be coming. So,
is it to distract on the news? No. the news cycle. Will it be picked up? That's usually why they do this kind of thing at these kinds of times.
No. So one of the things that you had to go through confirmations first. Second thing you had to do was get, people like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and his director and deputy director, you had to get them in. Number 3, what do they know? But number 4, you have to get your own house in order to an extent before you can actually start going down these paths and actually knowing what your staffing levels are, who you've got where, who's doing what. So you don't have any leaks, and then you can actually control the investigations that are going on and then seed it to the public. They're already, 100 steps ahead of where we are right now, looking at this unredacted information that came out in binders. They're already way into their investigations, but it's seeding the public. So you strip the clearances, you seed the public with what's going on. You're already 10, 20 steps ahead. By the time the general public and it reaches people who no longer have a security clearance or no longer have a private message call or a phone call from somebody that are inside the organization, once you reorganize the organization and go back and look at Dan Bongino's tweet to begin with, then you can actually control the flow of not only the investigation, but the seating of the public. So it's not so much shock as it is, it's expected. And they are relying on people on the internet that have been doing this for some years to kind of put these pieces together to be the PR mouthpiece. Then they move forward with investigations. How many arrests? I don't know. I don't know how many arrests. I don't know.
Yeah, I can just say, like, again, being an active independent tracking this stuff, I mean, all the Republicans always believe this. It'll be no news to them. It'll just be, hey, we knew this all along. Thank God it's finally come out. Democrats will deny. It's a this, it's a that. They probably made it up, whatever, right? And then the third in the middle, this is very influential, right? Because, for independents, it's about trust and, less about policy and more about trust. Who can we trust to lead? And this stuff is very, very impactful.
Yeah, this stuff is wild. So now I've got a list of most of the key names that were listed in here. We know most of these names. I was looking for anything new. Kathy Klavich is new, though. Kathy Klavich.
That's new.
That's
I've
new.
seen that name once or twice, but nothing of great import.
This is one that I hadn't paid much attention to, which is why I'm kind of zeroing in on her because that's new to me. So it looks like she was the one that was coordinating the meetings between Steele and Mike Gaeta in Rome, using the State Department's involvement in Crossfire Hurricane. So she was, she's Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. So she was very involved in this, apparently.
CIA.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we've got Bill Preistrap, which was the SBI's Assistant Director for Counterintelligence. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Bill here was the guy that, for those who don't know, there was a FOIA document that I think there's a journalist named Ryan Moore or something more, Ryan Maida, I can't remember what his name is, but he FOIA'd the original document showing that they opened a second counterintelligence investigation into Trump in 2017 prior to the Mueller report starting, or prior to Mueller's investigation starting. And I believe that's who this is. I need to double check that. I need to go back and look at my notes. I've got them somewhere. We've also got Kevin Kleinsmith. That was the guy that used, he was the one that falsified.
That's the attorney.
Yeah, he's the one that falsified the FISA application against Carter Page. James Baker obviously was very involved. Joe Picenta III. That's the SSA.
Oh, and by the way, the judge on that FISA decision from Kevin Kleinsmith was no other than Judge Boasberg, by the way.
Yep, of course it was Judge Bozo. So I'm going to keep.
Interesting what I saw real quick here, and I don't know if anybody's going through the Bruce Orr stuff. But
Bruce, I was just reading it.
Yeah, Binder 7.
Yeah, it's unbelievable because he was in total cahoots with. He was having meetings constantly with Simpson.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and his wife was actually, they redacted the name of the firm she was doing research for, but it was Simpson. So here you have Nellie Orr working to dig up for a Steele report. And then you have Bruce Orr in the FBI, or was he in DOJ? Was Bruce Orr DOJ or FBI?
Give me a second. I'll tell you. Bruce Orr was. He was a senior Department of Justice guy. So he was the one that was the intermediary between Steele, Fusion GPS, and the FBI.
Correct. Says Director of the Department of Justice Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and I just was looking at it. It's absolutely incredible that he was actually coordinating everything, and they went ahead anyway, even though you're looking at it. He knew that it was just oppositional research. Reading it through, it's insane that, and then it's really bad.
I see names like Snowden, Marine Le Pen. It's crazy. I'm just looking at it.
Well, the reason that Snowden's being brought up is because what they're doing is trying to create this narrative of as it shows here, plausible deniability, that Trump is setting up a plausible deniability using WikiLeaks, even though he was given this stuff by the Russians. And he was doing these things by the Russians, and they were strategically leaking things through WikiLeaks so he could have plausible deniability, saying, I don't know what that is. That was part of the narrative that they were setting up. That's why Snowden and Assange are being brought up. Snowden's being brought up because, Jesus, man, this is
it's insane. It's like the amount that went into this, like this web.
But I mean, it's so retarded. It's not even like actually like intelligible. So it's like it's like they're basically making a fruit punch of a bunch of names of people who were basically deemed enemy of the state, and they were trying to wrap them all up into some kind of narrative. Snowden has nothing to do with WikiLeaks, yet he's being mentioned in the context of WikiLeaks as if him and Assange had anything to do with each other. They're wrapping it up in like this. They had control of the narrative at the time. That's it. That's it.
So Binder 6 here, the FBI, there's notes in here specifically saying that there is confirmation for there's no confirmation for key allegations regarding Trump's stay at the hotel in the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow. So they even
when he got
acknowledge
peed on in the elevator. Yes.
They acknowledge that this isn't even true. They know it, and they still continue to use it. Subsource is primarily motivated by financial considerations, and information could not be independently verified. That's
so we knew that then. We knew that it was not corroborated, but they used it anyway to pursue their political goals. So like it wasn't. We all knew that it was even well known at that time that they had said like there's no actual real evidence to this, but we're going to roll with it anyway because of the PR opportunity that it presented. And that was the entire point. Yes, the FBI is complicit in this, 1,000%, and DOJ. But we know that, right? We know Rod Rosenstein. By the way, let me throw this out there for people that don't know. Do you guys know who replaced Rod Rosenstein in Maryland when Rod Rosenstein made it to DOJ Maine when he was running a lot of these ops? It was Robert Hur. Yeah. Robert Hur was a Rod Rosenstein protege at a district in Maryland before Rod Rosenstein made it to Maine DOJ and started working on this stuff. It was Robert Hur, the same guy that did the interview with Joe Biden, saying he's too incompetent to know that whether he committed a crime or not, but we're not going to prosecute. It's
all one big cabal. It's incredible.
Just a handful of people that are just absolutely outside themselves, that had gotten drunk on their own power and believed themselves to be untouchable. And so they just ran all these things all the time, and they benefited well, both monetarily and politically and in their career.
You know, it is, though. They have been untouchable, Trish, and I hope it's not going to continue, but that they have been to their right to think it. It's insane.
Here's something pretty interesting. So Binder 2, Steele spoke to the press because he was frustrated by the FBI's pace and handling of his reports. I mean,
what's crazy is that Orr met with Simpson the day before the story came out.
Here's another one. This is Stephen Halper to Carter Page. They could fund you discreetly. The Russians would fund it. No one would have to know. I mean, amazing. Meanwhile, Carter, by the way, Stephen Halper, they have documents showing that he was paid $500,000 as a confidential human source.
By who?
The FBI.
And they was telling this guy that the Russians could pay him too? What?
No, he was going to Carter Page and telling him to go get funding from the Russians.
Oh, okay.
That's the deal.
I'm at a loss for words, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is amazing. Ridiculously stuff.
I'm starting to run these documents through the AI stuff just because I don't know the right questions to ask, Walter, like you and Trash do. And Halper's showing up a ton in terms of, and prompts like what are new details that were previously unknown from the document and things like that. And Halper's all over it. Interesting.
Oh yeah. Stephen Halper's everywhere. So this is from an interview of November 22nd of 2016 of Bruce Orr. Sergei Yatsenko is alleged to be an intelligence officer working with Carter Page. This is what generated the jumping phenomenon of jumping to contacts to be able to, basically expand the scope of the FISA. Steele was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being in the U.S. president. Bruce Orr believes that Christopher Steele wanted to blunt or foil the Kremlin's plans. Simpson believes Steele wanted to blunt or foil. Simpson and Steele could have met with Yahoo or Michael Isikoff jointly. This is the Yahoo article, if you guys remember this. But Bruce Orr does not know if they did. Orr provided copies of notes that he took after meeting with Steele, which are enclosed in the attachments. Orr never believed Steele was making up information or shading it. She would say that this is what sources are telling me. There are always Russian conspiracy theories that come from the Kremlin. One time, Orr heard a theory from Christopher Steele regarding Mikhail Lesin's death that came from the Kremlin. Christopher Steele reported that that Lesin was beaten to teach him a lesson, but it got out of hand and he died. Bruce Orr honestly believes Steele reported what he heard from sources at the Kremlin, but that doesn't make the story true. I'm going to read that one more time. Bruce Orr honestly believes Christopher Steele reported that what he heard from sources at the Kremlin, but that doesn't make the story true. And this is from Bruce Orr's interview. John Weiner possibly knew Christopher Steele and FGI met Orr met Weiner in 1999 or 2000 when Weiner was in the U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for International Law Enforcement. Weiner was very interested in Russian organized crime and enthusiastic about the subject. Just hang on, just bear with me, guys. Yet at times difficult to deal with. Or knew Glenn Simpson and others were talking to Victoria Nuland at the U.S. State Department.
Okay, so people probably need context on why we just laughed about that. Oh, it's too good, Trash. It's too good. This is everything we said it wasn't more.
Yeah,
so people probably
the
need.
Orr thing is just like it's
so hold on,
unbelievable.
Hold on, though. People need context on why we were just losing it laughing. So Nuland, for those who don't know, Victoria Nuland has been all over everything to do with deep state activity for, I don't know, ever.
Yeah, Ukraine, Eastern Europe. She is, she's the Vicky the Carpathian, right? She is Mrs. State Department deep state of Eastern Europe. Mrs. Color Revolution, if you will. 2014 Euromaidan. Vicky Nuland is everything. And the fact that she's at the center of seeding this information to both Glenn Simpson and Bruce Orr in this, as far as Russian crime, holy shit, man.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's see what else I can find in here. Okay, so I just had an AI. I loaded everything into an AI, so it's running now. It's going to do a full analysis and see what it comes up with within there. But my assumption is that it's going to be much better to actually go through reading it so I can actually find more information in here. But man, this is something else. What a absurd, I don't even know what to say.
What do you use? What's your AI of choice for something like that, Walter, just out of curiosity?
I have ChatGPT, the pro version of it. So
yeah, gotcha.
So I can literally just load all of the documents into it and hit run, and it'll run for 15, 20 minutes and pull everything that I just asked it. So I just typed up a long, extensive list of people that I believe are probably important, and then told it to find interesting quotes that would prove that this was definitely a politically motivated prosecution or investigation. So
is Trash on your list of people to look for?
No, Trash. Yeah, Trash Discourse. I'm sure he's in here somewhere.
No, right now I only exist in Renee DiResta's book that she wrote about misinformation agents and a new form of harassment. I can't believe that Renee DiResta wrote about me in her fucking book. She said the anonymous man with the raccoon profile picture hosted Matt Taibbi and Mike Benz on a new form of harassment when we're talking about censorship. Like, yeah, I see you, Renee. Now, Vicky Nuland's not going to write about me, although she probably should. Norm Eisen should definitely write about me because I've been a pain in his ass for a very long time. But no, Vicky, she retired. She left the State Department. She's done. So I probably won't be ending up in these reports.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are. But
listen to this. Or asked Simpson if he was concerned about his personal safety. Simpson responded that he learned, this is from December 12th of 2016. Simpson responded that he learned from his Russian investigative reporting, okay, what they were capable of, but there were no way for him to know if they were coming after him. Simpson mentioned that someone called and asked him to find out where all of the Alpha Bank stories were coming from. Simpson did not state this was a threat from the Russians, but that was the impression made upon Orr based on the timing of the comment and using that story as a response to Orr's question. Alpha Bank. All right. Well, should we break down Alpha Bank for a moment, or the leak and the hack at Trump Tower and the backdoor link to Alpha Bank inside? do we need to talk about that? Because that was what supposedly connected Trump to any of this. Was
Keep
the
going
backdoor
with that
line
one.
out of the server in Trump Tower to Alpha Bank.
No, but keep reading, because you'll see how they planted that story. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is the entire. Basically, this is the entire episode of planting that story that created the information and quote unquote intel. And trust me, read that like SpongeBob. That enabled them to basically lie with Judge Boasberg on the FISA court to get these FISA warrants to be able to do the 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon jumping on digital devices. That's the entire story. This is what linked it, and saying that there was a DNC hack and that there was a backdoor transmission line to Alpha Bank through Trump Tower. This is the entire genesis of that story.
Hey, Walter or Trash, maybe change the title of the room. Crossfire Hurricane. There's a lot of people.
There's going to be a lot of people in here that maybe new to it, though.
Yeah, you guys know. Trust me. You guys are killing it. Just change the top. Yeah, trust me. There are a lot of people that want to know about this.
But Nellie Orr is actually seeking out her Russian contacts for information, and then
I'm looking at that.
Are you looking at that? And then her contacts, these Russian people, were then feeding information to Steele about the Alpha Bank. That would be a great connection to make, since so and so you had used Alpha Bank and knew Trump. It was this ridiculous correlation.
Well, people who can hack into anybody's computer and actually put the entries into their computer, and then you can generate that. Oh, look, there was a backdoor access, a transmission line into Trump Tower to Alpha Bank, and that was all fake. And they used that same stuff to do the DNC hack, quote unquote.
All right, so I just started a long-form query that's going to run. It'll probably take about 15 or 20 minutes for it to be finished. But what it's doing is it's going to run all of the documents. It's going to run all of the documents loaded into its knowledge base now, and it's going to go out and create a timeline from beginning to end, and then cross-reference it directly with media reports and the beginning of investigations into Trump, and how the entire thing is counterdicted. So every single time there's a media report or some specific date that something happens, it's going to go out and counteract that with the information that was in the article in the documents. So that'll take a few minutes to run, but that should be pretty interesting when that's finished. And I'll let you guys know when that's done. But I'm going to keep reading through. 7 to me seems like there is just amazing things in here. So I keep finding Comey.
I'm stuck on 7. I'm reading all of this, word for word for word.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Orr stated Waldman also discussed WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange's proffer with DOJ in order to obtain safe passage in the United States. In return, Assange would 1, be willing to step down from his role at WikiLeaks, 2, disclose his newest information to the U.S. government and accept recommendations for redactions, and 3, discuss the information obtained from the cyber intrusion of the Democratic, here it is, of the DNC. And according to Waldman, Assange still refuses to identify his source, but is frustrated that the Russian Federation is getting credit for the intrusion, or added that the proffer request had been passed to DOJ National Security Division. Why do you think he ran? Like, this is fucking nuts, man.
Oh yeah.
Walter, the first story really wasn't at the New York Times on Trump's inauguration, the one that really put this into the public spotlight.
Yeah, I think it was New York Times, the very first one, because I remember Clinton himself Bill Clinton coming out and saying, well, he had the Russians to help him win. It was shortly after he won.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It was published on January 20th, 2017 in the New York Times.
Yep, it started as soon as he took office.
Yep. The fake news hate AI, where you can run that query, Walter, and in 20 minutes link all new facts to all of their bogus stories. It's they've just got to hate AI.
Hang on. So January 20th of 2017, when was Inauguration Day for Trump in 2017?
That was it, I believe. January 20th or the 21st. It was right there.
Yeah, 21st. So right. So just for everybody's knowledge, if we want to rewind a little bit and let's back out of the Crossfire hurricane for a second. What happened in the Obama White House in January 2017 prior to Trump taking office? Walt, you ready?
Yeah.
Well, we have S.J. Terp, British Army intelligence officer, coming over and creating basically this PSYOP censorship machine. She had a meeting inside the White House, Sarah Jane Terp. She's British Army intelligence officer inside of Obama's White House. During that same time, there was also a getaway. And that getaway consisted of David Brock, Media Matters, American Bridge, Share Blue, which then became Act Blue, and Norm Eisen and crew. And that was the meeting at the getaway at the same time before Trump took office, was the same time that the meeting inside the Obama White House took place with Sarah Jane Terp and basically being commissioned by Obama essentially to create the disarm framework, which essentially led to the censorship machine and all of the funding of the NGOs that were doing Band-Aid work like the Alex Stamos and Renee DeRestas of the world to create the censorship machine. She was running the psychological influence operation machine that was running on social media at the time to AstroTurf and to basically create a system that this narrative could deploy into the general populace that could then bleed its way into the mainstream media, legacy media, that they could then parrot talking points from. And they would have this entire ecosystem of not only censorship, suppression, banning, narrative shaping, psychological influence operations, then control over ad spend, then can have control over fact-checking apparatus, then having control over the social media companies to do censorship, and it spun up this entire censorship industrial complex that we're dealing with still to this day. It was all to protect this thing, this amoeba, this blob, this octopus of taking down Trump because he was a existential threat, because they saw what happened in England with Brexit. They saw how Steve Bannon and many other people won and putting Trump into office using Cambridge Analytica and metadata and data to put them into office. And this whole thing was a response to the European establishment that says we cannot have another Brexit like we cannot have in the USA like we had a Brexit in the UK, because it will spread like a virus around the world and we will no longer maintain control. This was the beginning of the end of what we affectionately call the deep state. It's just taken a long time to get here. We are 10 years removed from this at this point.
Yep.
9 years removed from at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this is everything that we've been waiting for. And everyone's going to complain. Watch, there's already people complaining about it being...
I'm done with people complaining on the internet. Just to be clear, if you're listening, you can say whatever you want in my comments. Either you're fake or you haven't paid attention. Either way, I have no interest in you, and you can say whatever you want. You're not going to shape the audience of people that are listening to the stuff I put out. You can suppress me, ban me. You can use all the tools of Twitter 1.0 to suppress me. It's fine. I don't care. I really don't give a shit. I'm done being blacklisted. I'm done being suppressed. I really don't care. But like the comments and stuff, either A, they're not real, or B, they are people that have vested interest or have networks of vested interest to keep this stuff quiet and just discredit it. But I have all the receipts for all of this, so I really don't care. I just don't care.
Hey, Trash, can you do 30 seconds to 60 seconds on why Trump was ineffective in getting this stuff out in the his first administration when he had control of.
I don't even need 30 seconds. I think he underestimated how deep the swamp went. And
Okay.
I don't think he realized how deep alligators go inside that swamp. And I don't think that he realized the actual power that it took to get to the place that they got post Eisenhower, to get what they got, utilizing the tools of what FDR put in place to create an ever-expanding bureaucracy, which we would now call the administrative state, the deep state. And I don't think he realized what he was getting himself into. That's my 30-second elevator pitch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That I agree with entirely.
It was January 20th, Trash, Dave's inauguration. So, I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
that makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. That's why I asked.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, how obvious?
Yep. And so these step-by-step actions of stripping security clearances from these people. Then we move into, I'm going to announce an investigation. Let me be clear about something real quick. I don't know Tulsi Gabbard personally. I don't know John Ratcliffe personally. I'd like to think that I know some of these people at least enough because I've been up their fucking ass looking at their teeth for like the last 9 years. So I know some of these people to an extent of, I know your name, I know who you are. Lisa Monaco's of the world, the Rosa Brooks of the world, the Maria Steffens of the world, the Lisa Fithians of the world, the Renee DeRestas, the Alex Stamos, the Norm Eisens, the Mark Elias, the David Brocks. I know all these people from the outside. I don't know these people personally. But I can tell you that all of them believe that they had ultimate power to themselves. And I think they're going to find out really quickly. And it's obvious to me that all of this stuff was unleashed. And whether or not Obama had an outsized role in the Biden administration, I can make the argument that he did because he had all his people in there the first 2 years. We can go through all that. But at the end of the day, this was a mandate that came through the establishment powers that be from both the right and the left that were both complicit in all of this. And they weaponized themselves. They weaponized the federal government. They weaponized your tax dollars. They weaponized NGOs. And they created this entire ecosystem that was designed to protect itself upon an attack. And miraculously, somehow, some way, whether it was Elon buying Twitter and we broke the spell and we were able to get through, whatever it was, we broke the narrative machine for good. And we are just now getting here 10 years later. A lot of us have been talking about this for 10 years. I've been talking about it for 10 years. And now, granted, this account right here, I rebuilt organically back in, I think, 2022, because I was completely thrown off the internet. And I'm just a normal dude that just like reads. But like, that's all it took was people reading.
Hold on a minute here. Who's read in on this? Hold on a minute. Oh, man. Okay, Trash, you need to pay attention to something. So we have new names here because you need to look at, when you look at some of these emails, I've been scrolling so fast now I'm taking a minute while my query runs here. Look at who's CC'd in the emails, dude. Look at who's CC'd. And there's this is Binder 1. I went back to Binder 1. So if you scroll down, there's a ton of these emails that are sent out talking about this drive, the USB drive, talking about all the evidence that they have, blah, 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 right?
Yeah, the 8, was it 8 megabit or 8 gig
drive? Yeah, this giant USB drive. Yeah, this sub-Simpson folder, blah, blah, blah. Well, look at the CC'd people on there. They didn't redact all of the names. Some of them are redacted, but there's a bunch of names that aren't, like Molly Moyer, Sally Ann, and Kevin Kleinsmith's in here, and Brian Aughton's in here, and Curtis Hyde is in here.
What page are you on that you want me to look at?
50 on. This is page 50 of document 1.
Oh, it's 100?
Yeah, 50.
Yeah. All right. Hang on.
I mean, I think there's a.
Oh, yeah. So Joe Pientka.
Mm-hmm.
We got Benjamin Gessard.
Jonathan Moffa.
Yeah. Curtis Hyde. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what you need to pay attention to. So those names weren't known by people before.
Now I know who Curtis Hyde is.
I love it. I do like the unredacted versions. Or I like how you see it in red, though. You see source ID Steele. You know, they've got it directly.
Peter Stroke, December 6th of 2016. So So Jennifer Boone, Michael Varcali, James Dennehy, and then CC Peter Strzok. They're already setting the narrative. So New York Times story from October 3rd, 2016 that downplayed the connection between Alpha Bank servers and the Trump campaign. Okay, this is what I was just talking about like 30 minutes ago. Trump campaign was incorrect. There was communication and it wasn't spam. Mikhail Friedman lied in the written statement that he gave to the New York Times and Washington Post. Friedman claimed that he never met Trump. However, there were pictures to the contrary. I'll get with Brian and check the story, The Relevance of Us. That was Peter Strzok's email. All
right, so
there's classified attachments on this. No.
Well, I just got the photo of, I'm going to put this out right now. This is the FBI paid steal.
Kabeva and Yuri Kovalchuk. Okay, this is I have to go through this on my own. Mother Jones. Oh yeah, David Korn, of course. Mother Jones, David Korn, of course. This fucking clown.
God, I can't wait till the mass media picks this up in the morning trash. This is going to be epic.
Oh, me too, but they're not going to.
I'm kidding. That's what I was.
They're not going to.
No, that was my joke.
$74,000 aggregate total paid to Michael Gaeta.
No, that's the case agent. So Michael Gaeta is the case agent. It's paid to steal. The source ID is steal.
How much did he collect off of this?
And it says he paid $74,000.
Well, no, but there's more.
Oh, that's just one of them. There's a $15,000 one. There's a $74,000 one, and then there's I think a $5,000 one or something in there too. There's a bunch of them.
$6,000 one too. Where is Michael? Where's Michael these days? Okay, sorry guys. We are just doing like a dig session on this stuff. I know it probably sounds wonky. I know it definitely sounds wonky. I was not trying to present like an official podcast format here. These got dumped in our lap tonight. I know John Sullivan reported it out of the Just the News this morning. I just didn't have time to look at it. I was at my normie job. But Sean Davis at the Federalist basically uploaded, his team at Federalist uploaded these individually by binder. There's 7 of them, to Scribed, and we're going through them now. And most of it is unredacted. There are still some that are classified, but nothing that I see that of note. I'd like to see the attachments, but I can deal with the redacted, unredacted portion of this. So basically what they did was they redacted it, they black boxed it, and then they re-added the names or the information back in on top in red. So I do see the work that they've done. People were giving them shit for it. They were like, where is the Crossfire hurricane binders? Blah, 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 blah. Well, now I see what they were doing. They were actually adding the names back in to make sure it was accurate.
Yep. Yeah, they went back over top of it.
All right. Actually,
so I just
don't have beef with it at all.
Yeah, I just put out the receipt to steal the $74,000 one.
Yeah.
Walter, where's your AI analysis?
Still running. Still running.
Okay.
Takes a while.
Yeah, no, I understand, but yeah.
Still running. Let's see here. What's this one?
All right, I'm going back to I was looking at page 1, but now so this is a memo from the FBI official record, August 30th, 2016. Washington field office from Joe Pineka III, approved by Kevin Kleinsmith and Peter Strzok. This is Crossfire Hurricane Foreign Agents Registration Act, so FARA stuff, RE Russia. Sensitive Investigative Matter, Crossfire Razor, Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA Russia, Sensitive Investigative Matter, draft document, deliberative material. Do not disseminate outside the FBI without the permission of the originator or the program manager. Synopsis. This communications document writer's counterintelligence and security briefing to the Republican candidate for U.S. President Donald J. Trump, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and General retired Michael Flynn. Full investigation initiated July 31st of 2016. Holy shit. He was still campaigning as a meme candidate at this time.
Yep.
So the internals were telling them that Hillary was losing, so they spun this up.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the deal, right? So the deal is that they could see that Trump was about to win, so they spun all this stuff up, dude. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but this is like July.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing like a lot of these payments are in July, dude.
Right.
They're saying this started in July 2016, this entire thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, I didn't know this.
I was in GROK before. I had the exact date that it started. Now it's gone. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
Like, I started paying attention to some of the stuff back in, like, I would say August or September of 2016, leading up to the election.
Oh, here we go. So look at this. This is Binder 2, provided verbally in person by Mike Gaeta, 1/25/16. So that was directly after Trump was inaugurated.
Dude, Binder 7, guys.
Yeah, that's Binder 7. That's the one to really look through. But I'm just going back through slowly everything now.
Does that say China, June 15, OPM SF 86, clearance adjudication, confidential human source, control verifications? What the fuck are these?
What?
These are Post-it notes. These are Post-it notes.
What page are you at? You're on 7?
I'm on page 40 of 84 on Binder 7.
Okay, gonna go there and look.
Buryakov, Russian banker, not otherwise classified, NOC, knock. I learned that from Mission Impossible when I was a kid, knock. Not otherwise classified. Buryakov, Russian banker. 2.5 years, May. This is back from June of 2015. These are Post-it notes.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Here it is. Title, defensive brief to David Kendall, which I remember, October 22nd, 2015. CC Charles McGonigal. I asked you if you saw Charlie in here. CC Charles McGonigal and Colt Markovsky, Joseph Murphy, and Donald Voyre. Approved by David Archie. This is counterintelligence. This is back in 2015. To document defensive briefing to David E. Kendall and his associate Catherine Turner, both of Williams and Connolly LLP, personal attorneys to Hillary Clinton.
I'm reading it now.
Holy fuck, dude. Full investigation. Listen to this. Full investigation initiated November 25th of 2014.
Wait, what?
Just listen to this. Defensive brief to David Kendall, 10/22/2015. David Kendall being one of the attorneys for Hillary Clinton. Catherine Turner, both partners at Williams & Connolly LLP, located at 725 12th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. Kendall and Turner are personal attorneys for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Kendall and Turner both hold security clearances. The purpose of this meeting was to provide a classes defensive briefing for Ms. Clinton's presidential campaign, as summarized below. Kendall and Turner were advised the FBI that information that the government had of Turkey is attempting to influence Hillary Clinton through lobbying efforts and campaign contributions. The campaign contributions may come in the form outside established parameters for such contributions. Kendall and Turner were advised that the FBI providing them with this briefing for awareness, and so Miss Clinton could take a, it says Miss Clinton, by the way. Pretty sure she was still married to Bill. Should be Mrs. Clinton, yeah? Anyway, Kendall and Turner advised the FBI was providing them with this briefing for awareness so Ms. Clinton could take appropriate action to protect herself. They were also told that the FBI was seeking their assistance to identify other appropriate recipients of the brief, if any. Kendall and Turner Associates were asked to advise the FBI Section Chief Archie if Miss Clinton, it says Miss again. They keep saying Miss.
I see that.
It's weird. Miss Clinton is approached by anyone connected to or acting at the direction of the government of Turkey. Oh my fucking God. This is where SJ Turp comes in, Walt. This is where Disarm comes in. This is where Graphica and DOD come in. Listen to this. Listen to this. As examples of issues that were known to be potentially important to the government of Turkey, Kendall and Turner were advised of the following. A, the removal of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. B, the implementation of a no-fly zone over Syria. C, U.S. support of Syrian rebels. D, U.S. military material support to Kurdish groups fighting ISIL, which is otherwise known as ISIS, essentially. And then letter E, linking Turkey to the Armenian genocide.
Holy shit.
This... Do you see this, Walt?
Yeah, I'm reading this now. We're advised the FBI has an ongoing investigation and does not have information at this time. SC Archie stated the FBI felt the information is sufficiently reliable. So, but the more important thing, go back up, is they were advised they could take it to Clinton so she could protect herself.
Right. Mounting a presidential campaign. But they were also spinning up. There must have been murmuring that I didn't know about at this time in 2014, probably in 2015, that Trump was actually going to run. I really didn't learn of it until like early 2016, and I was pretty dialed in. I was part of one of them. I'm a meme war veteran, right? Like, Donald.win, Patriots.win stuff, right? That's where I came from. That's where trash discourse comes from. But my point is, if you go back and look at Matt Taibbi's reporting on the CTI League files reporting, and you have the video of the guy that was bragging essentially to Graphica upon the creation of the psychological influence operation machine disarm framework, within that reporting, you had a guy that was basically saying that, like, yes, these attacks by ISIS in Turkey, we actually were able to convince successfully the public that it was actually Kurdish groups that were actually doing the bombing and the terrorism, not ISIS, which they label as ISIL in this report. Linking Turkey to the Armenian genocide.
Yeah, this is insane, dude.
I did not expect this in Crossfire Hurricane. I got to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, that's crazy that they included it, though. Because that's prior. I mean, that's 2014.
Yeah, well, this is a brief from October 2015, but I mean, all that stuff happened prior to that.
Can you guys contextualize why that information is included in this particular report?
Okay, so if you don't know what Charles McGonigal is he was the counterintelligence guy that essentially led Crossfire Hurricane. So that's why it's important.
Well, and Charles McGonigal is also under federal indictment. Well, actually,
no, he is in fucking.
He's in prison now. He's in prison now. He took a deal.
But yeah, he took a deal for specifically, though, just so everyone's aware, for taking bribes from Russians.
Albanians. He took bribes
Albanian
cash from the Albanian prime minister. And I'll explain the importance of that in a minute because I've been all over Charlie McGonigal. If you guys were okay,
we had like a 6-hour space on Charles McGonigal.
Yes, I know. I remember. Let me back it up. So you guys remember the leaked text messages between Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, where they were talking about, have you briefed Charlie on this matter? They're talking about Charles McGonigal in those texts. That's why Peter Strzok was relieved of duty and Lisa Page and the whole thing, right? The affair between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. But they were talking about Charlie in those text messages. None of us knew what that was. Well, at least us peasants, us plebes knew what that was until Charles McGonigal got arrested for taking bribes from the Albanian prime minister and in return, basically offering opposition research of the Albanian prime minister's opposition while he was running in Albania. Now, why is that important? Well, China wanted to put a pipeline through Albania, and in return, Albania was giving the poppies that were creating the fentanyl, that then the fentanyl that was taken over by the Chinese government was given to the Sinaloa cartel, and the Sinaloa cartel brought in the fentanyl into this country. Why is all of that related? Well, Charles McGonigal was SAC chief of counterterrorism in the New York field office of the FBI, and he was taking bribes from the Albanian prime minister. At the same time, why is this connected to this? It is because basically the FBI, Fusion GPS, and British intelligence are basically running opposition research campaigns for Hillary Clinton as she mounts her campaign to run for presidency against Donald Trump. And so now that all of these people were involved in the background in the opposition research for the Hillary Clinton campaign, they then deployed against her obvious opponent that became clear at that point, that was Donald Trump. Then, when you already have that weight and you've already paid that money, not only through federal government cutouts, not only through federal government expenditures and NGOs, now taking direct payments and direct assistance from the FBI because they were complicit, because they were caught up in their own scandals. They were then not necessarily blackmailed, but just like kind of a wink and a nod saying, I know, you know what I know about you, therefore I need you to participate. They then basically weaponized the entire intelligence apparatus and the FBI to basically be the entire opposition research and opposition setup and essentially campaign through the DNC for Hillary Clinton.
I mean, did I just hear you say that they essentially bribed or extorted guys like
I wouldn't even call it extorted. I would call it a wink and a nudge saying, you know what I know about you, therefore I need your resources.
Okay.
That's it.
I mean, is this a little bit of an insight into how all of Washington works, right? It's all about, hey, I know enough about you. I mean, you get like Santos on here and other people that are just spilling the beans on how they're, on how it works. And every time you do, and they just, a guy that has nothing to lose, that comes clean, talks about it in this way. So they say, hey, we're going to help you in this way. We'll cover up this. We'll do this. If you play ball, if you don't, then you're going to get outed and you're screwed. So, I mean, it's a wink and a nod or extortion. I mean, it's, flip sides of the coin, right?
No, I think it's just the way the game works. Yeah, it's just a wink and a nod, right? Like you know that I know what you know. I know that you know that I know what you did. Therefore, initially, this appears to me that initially this was nothing more than Hillary Clinton using all the resources that she'd gained and all the political capital that she gained to make a run for president when she had very, very dirty, disgusting, dark skeletons in her closet. And so then she used her contacts within the main DOJ, inside the FBI and everything else, inside our intelligence community, to basically weaponize them as oppo research. Then, once it became clear who was going to be her opponent, she then said, well, you can't stop now. I mean, that's what I'm reading. Essentially, what I'm seeing here is you can't stop now. Now I need you to actually go on offense, and I actually need you to run these ops. And by the way, there's this British guy named Christopher Steele that has this dirty dossier that's full of lies, and we're going to connect and we're going to link Trump to Russians. And basically, it was the Russians who got Trump into office, and we can prove it through this fake Alpha Bank connection from the Trump Tower to the Russians. That's what all of this is showing.
How does that Perkins Coie now fit in? Because they like Trump going after.
So Perkins Coie, and shout out to Jennifer Lawrence. She's texting me right now. She wants me to go over to Diligence Space, and I'm like, actually, the space is here right now. So you guys need to come over here because the space is here right now. They use the law firms for attorney-client privilege, meaning all of the communications go through the law firms and the lawyers that have security clearance. So if you have security clearance, you can hear these things that are being classified by the intelligence community. Once they've been classified, if you have security clearance, then you can listen to, conversate about, and communicate certain things to other parties through an intermediary that is a law group. When you strip their security clearances, they no longer have the ability to claim national security, and I have a security clearance. I can't talk about these things because of attorney-client privilege. This is why they use law firms as intermediaries for communication. This is why taking down Perkins Coie was so important. This is why stripping all of the attorneys that had security clearances of their security clearances, because they can no longer hide behind the veil of national security if you do not have the proper security clearance and you can't properly investigate it. And then you hide behind that, not only national security, but you also hide behind the attorney-client privilege veil. And if you can hide behind those two things, you don't have to talk about shit. And you can divulge everything. And you can weaponize the intelligence community and your assets within the intelligence community because you not only have security clearance, but you have attorney-client privilege. This is why stripping the law firms of their security clearances is so important. That's why Perkins Coie was so important.
Yeah, I mean this this bit here though, specifically that they have, that they could inform in 2014. McGonigal informs Hillary Clinton of Turkish interference. Oh, Turkish this, so she can take, not so that she can not do that, so that she can specifically form her own protection from that.
Correct. So I'm operating in this no-go zone, right? I'm operating in this limbo zone where you can't ask me questions about it because it pertains to national security. Well, I have security clearance. Oh, well, that's also attorney-client privilege, if that explains it better.
So it's like a double, kind of like a double protection. Like if you fall back on attorney-client privilege as it's like a wall.
Correct.
Exactly.
So like if you get hauled up in front of Congress, you could be like, I plead the fifth. Well, why is she pleading the fifth? Well, because it's attorney-client privilege. That's why. That's essentially the game. Right. So your first wall is security clearance. Your second wall is attorney-client privilege.
So I remember Jim Jordan questioning Mueller, and Mueller, I remember he said he never even heard of Perkins Coie or something. It was like, wait a minute, how is it possible that the guy doing this probe, the special counsel, never heard of that law firm? How is that possible? Or was he lying?
Yeah.
Yes,
and
that's
they,
exactly
they,
right.
they were
He was
rolling
lying.
the dice that Congress or that committee would not have the balls just to bring him up on perjury charges because both hands flip the same coin.
Trash, there is an exception to attorney-client privilege.
100%. But again, that's the
fraud.
minutia. I'm talking about go ahead.
You can pierce that veil through the crime or fraud exception, and you can do this if you have a DOJ investigation going on into perjury, subordination of perjury, or anything like that. You can get them. It's hard, but that would be the route I would go.
I'm not saying you can't, but what I'm saying is that the reality is that they knew that their friends across the aisle were in on the same game. They were part of the same machine, as we've seen. And it shows that it doesn't really matter what rule that we can show. It has to have the political willpower behind it to see it through or enforce it. And they knew that they would never have that ability. Man, if you guys want to talk about lifting the skirt, never mind Wizard of Oz parables of, removing the curtain, seeing the man behind the curtain. We have lifted the skirt over the last 8 years of how this entire machine operates. And I'm reading it right now.
So wait a minute. So in 2014, what role was McGonigal in? Was he still SAC in SDNY?
So 2014, yeah, because he retired in 2018. So he would have been SAC of the counterterrorism unit in New York, the FBI at that time.
Who was informing her?
So the date that these Crossfire Hurricane officially started was July 31st, 2016. That doesn't necessarily mean that the wheels weren't put in motion way before it actually was given an official, designation as Crossfire Hurricane. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be right.
So let me read this from Wikipedia, which they've edited, and I hate it, but it tells enough. So Charles McGonigal, in a former American Federal Bureau of Investigation special agent in charge of counterintelligence in the FBI New York City field office. In 2016, 2017, as a supervisor in the New York office, he led investigations into Russian interference and in the 2016 United States elections and Russian efforts to aid Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, including Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, which we know all about. In December 2023, McGonigal was sentenced to 50 months in prison, conspiring with Deripaska to violate U.S. sanctions on Russia. That's not true. Wikipedia is lying. This had everything to do with the gym bag full of cash from the Albanian prime minister. But I'll keep reading, nevertheless. In February 2024, McGonigal was sentenced to additional 28 months in prison for concealing payments that he received from a former Albanian intelligence employee. That's not true. He received sacks of cash from the Albanian prime minister for running Oppo research and counterintelligence for the Albanian prime minister's elections. It was way before that. And he helped facilitate not only China's efforts of putting energy through Albania and pushing fentanyl to the Sinaloa cartel, but he also facilitated Hunter Biden and his rise to power, not Hunter Biden, but Joe Biden through his proxy Hunter Biden and Devin Archer and Rosemont Seneca in Ukraine much earlier than that. Matter of fact, the documents that were found at the UPenn Biden Center that were national security implications were from 2014. Wow, Wikipedia has been edited, guys.
Well, I'm not surprised at all by that.
And shout out to Jennifer Ezel, who's listening. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. She says, I'm totally happy that Trash Discourse already called all this, vindicated, and I'm sharing with my Precinct 80 crew down in South Texas at the border. Yes, I did. I called all this like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. This is crazy.
Yeah, Trash, you're going to be vindicated a lot. Hang in there. I know,
man. I'm getting my wins slowly.
It was a rough time, after the election. You got whatever happened, some of the relationships and whatnot that you shared very generously with people like me who you really don't know personally, but only through here. So yeah, I'm glad you're getting your vindication. I just did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm starting to get the Trash was right stuff. Finally. Thank God. Jesus, man. This has been crazy. Huh?
Well, eventually the truth comes out. That's what always happens, right? Sometimes it takes a little more time than we'd like, but the truth wins most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, it always comes out eventually. The funny thing is that, like, one of the things about the FBI that is very neat, that Trash and I and a bunch of people that look into this stuff know this, it is nearly impossible, because of the way the FBI is set up, to actually delete documents. Like, it is so redundantly saved and triple saved and double saved and, stuffed in multiple different cloud servers and all sorts of other stuff. Like, the FBI is extremely good at record keeping. And it's for this very reason, because it's designed that no matter what, they're supposed to release everything in 20 years. So when you see stuff like this, and the reality is that they can never get rid of all of this, like anything that's put on FBI servers. So they were stupid to do this in the first place, to actually use the FBI as, this is amazing here. This one that you just found, Trash, and I just put it out, that McGonigal was working with Clinton in 2014. Like, that's unbelievable. Like, that's amazing.
Yes, that's a big piece that I did not have.
Yeah. That means, that explains a lot, though. So that means McGonigal was working with her beforehand. So, it's literally, it proves that McGonigal, who was the architect of Crossfire Hurricane, the counterintelligence SAC chief at SDNY, this guy, she was in direct contact with him prior to the investigation into Trump ever even starting. That proves a lot of things.
Yes.
That's prior to Trump ever even really throwing his hat in the ring.
Yes, exactly. He did not come down that golden escalator at that point. Yes. I'm so fucking vindicated right now, because I've been talking about this, and I'm like, listen, I'm just a stupid raccoon on the internet. I don't know what I'm talking about. However, this what seems to be this X, Y, and Z, and I've laid this out. Anybody that's been rocking with me, you guys know this. I'm finally vindicated. Holy cow. This is what I was looking for, because I knew it. I was literally the only one that talked about Charlie McGonigal at that time. Now we're talking about him since the arrest and all the things. I was talking to his crazy girlfriend, who was the one that reported him to the FBI when she found the gym bag full of $230,000 in cash that was given to him by the Albanian prime minister because he was running Oppo research to the counterintelligence office in the Southern District of New York at the FBI field office, which is the second largest field office in the country for the FBI. And he was running Oppo research, and it switched from Oppo research to offense research. And then that's when they started generating this Russian narrative. And there was enough people that were inside the circle that everyone had dirt on each other that they then were able to push through and actually start to spin up this narrative. And they used their partners at Washington Post, at Mother Jones, at New York Times, at MSNBC, at CNN, and they ran with it. And you had people at DOJ Maine, like Rod Rosenstein, who had come up from the Maryland office that Robert Hur replaced, and he was brought up to Maine Justice. And you had Peter Strzok, special agent. You had Lisa Page. You had the FISA courts locked down. You had Judge Boasberg, who was approving any FISA application that came across his desk, whether they were lying or telling the truth to him. And this entire picture was unfolding when it turned from, if you're going to run for president, Miss Clinton in these papers, by the way, not Mrs. Clinton, but Miss Clinton, if you're going to run for president, here's everything that people would have against you. They could talk about Benghazi. They can talk about the bleached hard drives. They can talk about Omar Gaddafi. We can talk about all these things. But this is your real main course of contact with the deep state of this machine that was operating. Jen is here. Jen has been trying to get me into this space. Jen, if you can hear me now that you've come up, the work that we've put in the last few years is finally being vindicated. Are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Hey guys.
What's up, Jen?
Oh my God.
Jen, did you see what
Dude, I'm so excited right now.
Did you see what we just found?
No, what happened?
We found a direct report showing that Charles McGonigal.
Wait. Let's set this up even more. Jen, you didn't see what we found. Wait till you hear the name that is connected to Hillary Clinton through all of this. Walt, go ahead.
Yeah, so 2014, Charles McGonigal is working directly with Hillary Clinton and her attorneys. Directly. And here's even better about this. He is not only doing that, he has found a report where he's talking about Turkish opposition research that could be used against Clinton and informing her of the appropriate action she needs to take to defend herself, to protect herself. I mean, it's everything we said. Everything.
Literally. And like all we had to go on was like public shit. Like we weren't like, it wasn't some super secret information, right? Like this is shit that was fucking out there.
Jed, do you remember when I fired up that space? I remember this because you and I were texting while I was firing it up, while I was making my exit to go to my normie job. I'm like, hey, I need to fire up a Charles McGonigal space because I can't do this in text and I need to like bring context to this, but why Charles McGonigal is so important. And I've been waiting for this. Charles McGonigal. So Jen, you may have missed this. Diligent, good to see you. If you want to come up and talk, please come up. Do you remember when I said, hey, do you remember how we were doing these spaces on Hunter Biden and Ukraine and Burisma and 2014 and the color revolutions? And I said, hey, by the way, there was an arrest that was just made. Charles McGonigal was arrested. This is a bigger deal than I think that people realize. You and I were on the phone before I fired that space up. You remember that?
Absolutely, I did, because that's like pretty much how I knew who Charles McGonigal was and his role in all of this. And that Diligent, that's one of the names that I couldn't remember a few minutes ago. Like I didn't even know what I was walking into, and I just like walked in and Diligent had a space I saw him running, so I walked in and they like invited me up. And I'm trying to explain to the room where Crossfire Hurricane is, and there's like literally like Russia, Ukraine, everything's like running through my mind. I couldn't even form sentences. I was like, I feel retarded right now. I can't explain why this is a big deal, but guys, this is huge. Where the hell is Trash? And that's what I texted you.
Yeah. On behalf of the 300 plus people in this room that, you know, is sort of understands in Crossfire Hurricane in general. But the last hour and a half, Walter, since you saw the dump and you guys started to read it and report it in real time, has been like living through a real time, like personal documentary where, you know, of exploration. And it's been absolutely fascinating and perhaps one of the more entertaining spaces I've ever been on. So I just greatly appreciate it.
Well, I mean, the funny thing about this is the amount of stuff that we have looked through specifically on this, like the amount of research that Trash, myself, No Rose is up here, Jen, the amount of stuff we have read and done on this prior to this is ridiculous. I mean, it's absurd how long we've been working on this stuff. I mean, it's been 10 years of this. So, it's ridiculous, and all of the missing pieces are coming out. And I'm about to put out a full timeline showing cross-reference directly to FBI documents to the hoaxes that were created around this. So that's going to be interesting. I'm working on it right now.
What we need to look
Did that
for,
AI real quick? Walter, did that AI thing run? Did it?
Yes, I
get
just
done
finished
running?
it.
Sweet.
I have to say, it's completely overwhelming to have all this validation.
Oh,
But
God.
the stuff that you're reading, Trash, that the connections, the whole network was ready to go in 214, 215, and Trump never announced, and they were setting this up.
Well, this was the plan. There was not going to be any opposition. It didn't matter. The continuation of what Obama set forth and put into motion on his second term, it was not going to be stopped. It didn't matter who came up on the Republican side, because, well, we got our buddies, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We got our buddies on the Republican side, so it doesn't matter. We got them over on our side, so we can just get through this. But we're going to set up this entire machine, and we are going to put this forth to make sure that Hillary Clinton is put in as president. And I can't stress this enough. If people are reading these documents, I want you to think about this. This went from levying our assets and resources inside intelligence, inside the FBI, and inside our diplomatic connections. It went from opposition research, hey, you owe me a favor, use your tools, use your people, use your systems to give me the best opposition research that anybody that came across me would come across. And then that way I'm prepared for it and I can defeat it. And then when a person like Donald Trump showed up, he was not your average run-of-the-mill Republican, McCain, Romney, squishy Republican McConnell types. He was something very much different. And he was somebody that came from a different aspect, and he was not going to be bullied and pushed around. Matter of fact, if you try to bully him, he's going to push back twice. So she said, now that I know all of your dirt, I need you to go on offense and create a narrative that is going to destroy my opponent to make sure that I win. And she still lost.
Well, and all their connections with all the oligarchs and getting their oligarch friends to pay for information within their circle.
Good, Jen.
I would argue that Michael Cohen was in place and that had a major part of it, right? Because Michael Cohen worked for Hillary Clinton, right? Like there was that whole thing. And then also remember Miriam Elder of BuzzFeed was one of the 3 named reporters on the Steele dossier story.
Yep. And also David Korn of Mother Jones is also named here. People thought I was like stupid for naming David Korn. I'm like, no. He's one of the guys.
So
hey,
Hill.
Walter, I have two quick questions for you guys. Again, I'm maybe potentially representing the semi-naive here. 2 quick questions. Number one, you guys said something in passing earlier that was news to me, maybe news to others in this space. That was the FBI's backup is duplicate, triplicate, et cetera. So when anyone enlists the FBI or theoretically other government agencies to do things that they did, like was done with the FBI here, there's a knowledge that it can't be fully erased and that it eventually could come out years later, right? So it's a huge gambit. So I want you to expound on that a little bit, and do they realize that risk? Is it an all or nothing proposition? Is it a last gasp effort as opposed to enlisting private sources? And then this. So go ahead and hit that first. And then
all right. So my simple answer, and I'll let anybody else respond. Jen, Walt, anybody respond, but my simple answer is no. It wasn't a last gasp. It wasn't anything that was like a panic. It was business as usual. Oh, really? You really want to do that? Okay, well, we're going to crush you. We're going to show you what kind of power we have. It was actually an arrogance. It was actually an ego. It was actually something that said, I can demonstrate how I can levy the entire power of the machine of the most powerful government in the world, and the obvious most powerful intelligence community in the world. I can levy that against anybody I want. It was an arrogance and an ego. It had nothing to do with panic. They didn't panic until election day.
When did Hillary leave Secretary of State? When did she leave office, Secretary of State?
Wasn't it 2018?
No, it would have been 2014,
or not 2018.
right? 2014, right?
2014.
Yeah, it's so weird. They reference her as Ms., not Mrs. Hillary Clinton.
That might be common. The second quick question is okay, so you referenced all of the
2013, sorry. All right,
you referenced all the media people that got on board. So if they're being fed by their sources in the government that they theoretically would trust, were they in on the big on the big lie or the big scam, or were they just puppets? What do they call them?
Useful idiots.
Something idiots.
Yeah,
useful idiots.
Yeah. No, I mean they're useful idiots, and they also probably had some sense of protecting themselves. But I'll let others speak.
Well, I would think that there was an overarching goal, right, of defeat Donald Trump. Now, you don't have to have every soldier in battle knowing the exact game plan of how this was going to go, right? You just need them to be able to carry out their duty and their role in the overarching plan and have everybody stay in step and push one narrative.
Yep.
I remember
with plausible deniability of I have inside sources that said blah, 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 blah. Right. Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
I remember when this was going on and they were interviewing, Comey and all these people. And they would say, oh, we saw a report in the media, so that's why they started investigating. It was all like in conjunction. I mean, you got to be kidding me. This was all, I don't even know what to say. You guys are the experts. I'll let you explain what I'm just trying to convey in a better way.
Well, I think one of like an egregious example, right, is Michael Schwartz of the New York Times, right? Who is part of this, like Julia Ioffe, Miriam Elder, and then Michael Schwartz. Michael Schwartz wrote this story of
and got a Pulitzer.
Russian bounties on U.S. soldiers' head, and he literally won a Pulitzer Prize over that, and it was a completely false freaking story.
Yeah. Well, and so like I was, what's funny, Jen? I was driving home tonight. I don't know why I was thinking about Julia, but like I can't say Julia Ioffe without saying Yulia Ioffe, right? I don't know why I was thinking about it, and I thought about you, and I remember where Julia Ioffe in real time was actually like live tweeting because she was listening to our space because we were talking about her when we were breaking down the complete psyop of the meeting. Julia Yoshi. But I remember when we would call her Julia Ioffe because we knew that she was listening, and she would get so pissed off that she would start tweeting. It's pronounced Yaffe.
Oh,
she was
all about that. That was so funny. She got so.
You guys remember that?
That was at the Munich Security Conference when we realized. Remember, Trash? I called you. I was like, "Yo, this is a psyop. Like, Navalny they didn't kill him. They didn't kill him."
Alexei Navalny was already dead, and Yulia Navalny was meeting with Zelensky and meeting with Biden in the White House, and like it was this whole thing. And they sent Kamala Harris for the Munich Security Conference, and 2 days later, Russia rushes in to the eastern part of Ukraine. Like, dude, like the whole this is it. By the way, Jen, I don't know if you caught this. I caught Vicki Newland in these documents. Vicki's in these documents, by the way. She's in them. She's here.
I really wonder who else is in these documents. right? Because
Everybody.
you got to remember, like, how much these Crossfire hurricane drops could potentially have in them, right? How
It's all of
many
it.
things were under the Russia hoax that happened between 2015 and 2020 or 19 maybe?
So I think what we need to do right now is establish the fact that we're talking about this right now. And we've broken this all down. We've been breaking this down for years. And I think that we should establish that today is April 10th, 2025. It's 9:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means it is April 11th, 2025. 12:13 a.m. on the Eastern Standard Time. I would like to put a timestamp right now. We're talking about this. And in 3 years, the stuff that we're talking about will actually be brought out into the general public by people who have larger platforms than we do. And they're going to talk about it then. I would like to do that because if you haven't noticed, they're talking about Event 201 right now, which we talked about 4 years ago.
Yes.
And the Wuhan military games of how that's actually where they spread it. Shout out. Have you not seen this, Jen?
Oh my!
They're talking about it.
I'm the one who freaking was like, "Yo, it was
I know, that's my point.
Games.
That's why I'm time-stamping this conversation right now, because in 3 or 4 years, people are going to be talking about it, and we're going to be like, "Yeah, we talked about that 4 years ago." So I'm time-stamping it right now.
Is anybody going to be in jail for this in 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, probably a lot of people actually. That first, you strip the clearance. Second, you prep the public. Third, you actually start doing IG independent investigations. Fourth, you bring people in front of committee. Fifth, you prosecute for perjury and or crimes against the state.
Well, this is why I think that
where was released to the public in that?
Right, is because
real quick, where was it? I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you go through that again? That because those steps are really good. Those were fantastic. So go through those again. But I didn't hear release to the public in that steps. Right. So get rid of the security clearances,
so they no longer have access to the information.
Right.
Step 2, you initiate investigations, independent counsel, independent investigations. Third, you bring them in front of committee, and they either commit perjury, plead the fifth, or tell the truth. And then fourth, you get people to flip, and then you move into investigations, and you move towards a criminal prosecution. We're 3 or 4 years removed from any kind of prosecutions, which we're already 10 years removed at this point from actual the point of actually committing the crime. But that's the path. Jen, go ahead.
Sorry, Walter. I was just asking real quickly. I apologize. I was just asking. I thought I heard Trash talking earlier about like what happened today, releasing to the public the information.
You got to prime the public. You got to prime the public for this.
Yeah, prime the public. Yeah. Okay. So and that's before the investigations.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
If you want to
remember this, Trash, that Dan Bongino wrote books about this 4 years ago.
Oh,
I mean,
like 6-7 years ago.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he's totally fluent on the whole thing. Now he has the names.
Well, yeah. Now he's deputy director of the FBI. Go ahead, Jen.
Well, that's why I think the Kennedy documents were so important, right? So if there's a group of people, right, who would have been very adverse, right, to or would be more not willing to believe that it was literally the government behind all of this stuff, like assaulting on the people and Donald Trump to take them out and bring them into communism, right? Is the group that experienced like the Kennedy assassination and what happened there. And I think by releasing those documents, something that was so like, you talk to older people, right? And you're like, where were you when Kennedy was assassinated? And they always know what they were wearing, where they exactly were, right? Because it was like one of the most traumatizing things. And to think that our own government was behind that, even though people knew, right? It's different it coming out in documents where you can actually read it yourself and it's not coming from a quote conspiracy theorist.
Exactly.
Walter, you doing your best Mike Ross over there? Do you read everything yet and have it memorized?
Almost. I'll be done in an hour.
Man.
Wait, you got to tell me if you come across like Miriam Elder, IO for Schwartz, because like, or Anna McAndrew, guys.
Anna McAndrew's not in here. Trust me, I gotta look for her.
I've
freaking CIA asset.
So I've now.
Holy shit!
What'd you find now, Trash?
All right. On February 11th, 2017, Joseph Misfood, date of birth, blah, 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 director of London Academy of Diplomacy, mobile telephone number redacted, email address redacted, was interviewed in the lobby of the Omni Shoreham Hotel, which gives the address. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the name of the interview, Misfood provided the following information. Number one, Misfood lives in London and the director of the London Academy of Diplomacy. However, he is also the advisor of the London Centre of International Law Practice, the LCILP. After reviewing a photograph provided by the interviewing agents, Misfood immediately identified the individual as George Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos is also a member of the LCILP. Misfood first met him in Rome when Papadopoulos traveled with his boss, Nagy Idri, to the Link Campus University in Rome approximately 8 months ago. The meeting had approximately 8 participants and was an informational exchange focused on organizing policy seminars and a building relationship between the university and the LCILP. Approximately 2 months later, Misfood met Papadopoulos for the second time when the two had coffee in the UK during the period. I can't read the rest of this. It's on page 83 of 84. Just go read it yourself. I can't do this. I can't.
Well,
I can't
George Papadopoulos is like a central figure in this Crossfire herd.
Right. Right. Which is why I can't do this.
Yeah, this is a lot. Wait until you read it. I'm going to publish this whole report here very shortly.
Yeah, no, I can't do this.
Trash, do you think they withheld exculpatory evidence from Papadopoulos?
They 1000% withheld exculpatory evidence.
Dude, the documents literally say that they were intentionally going to Carter Page trying to force him into fucking doing stuff with the Russians. Like, they were offering him stuff with the Russians.
Yeah.
Like, they literally said they were doing it.
I mean,
approximately 2 months later, Misfood met Papadopoulos for the second time when the two had coffee in the UK during the period when Papadopoulos was transitioning from the LCILP to a position within Donald Trump campaign. In addition to the Misfood and Papadopoulos, Olga Politsinkaya, an MBA student from the Link Campus University, was at that meeting. Politsinkaya included foreign officials and was present. Misfood did not believe that Politsinkaya was related to Vladimir Putin or any kind of Russian government officials. Misfood stated that Papadopoulos was interested in foreign policy ideas, Trump's recent speech, Israel migration, Russia, and other geopolitical subjects. Papadopoulos did not ask Misfood to join the Trump campaign. Yeah, like George was kind of like fucked off in this entire thing. And he had people swarming around him the entire time. And his entire life has been fucked off. And shout out to Simona for even sticking with him through this, because they tried to bury this dude.
Yeah, they did.
No, it was a complete setup from the very inception, right? Just because he belonged to a law organization, doesn't mean he was selling state secrets or secretly colluding with the Russians. Just because there might have been other people who belong to the same organization, like this.
They fucking ruined him, man.
What they did to that man and what they did to Simona is beyond.
Which is what I'm saying. Like, shout out to Simona for sticking with him through it. I gotta be honest with you.
Going through it too, right? Because it wasn't just like they tried to paint her as a Russian agent.
No, I know. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, shout out to her for sticking with him through it is what I was saying. Like, actually, shout out.
No, 100%. Agreeing with you.
Yep.
What about Adam Schiff? I want him to go to jail. And he was saying he had all this evidence. What was he talking about?
He's always got evidence. He's always got evidence.
He's got all the evidence, dude. Don't you know? It's Schiff.
Yeah, he has the evidence that was provided to him by the state.
He's got evidence that the CIA was complicit in Jurassic Park. Like, obviously, he's got all the evidence.
He's getting in. Yeah, that's how they're redoing these dire wolves. It's the same concept.
Well, think about it. He is one of the mouthpieces for the people who are carrying this out, right? So you provide Adam Schiff with a set of like, this is how it's going to go. This is the evidence. Here's the evidence. Here's the Steele dossier. Now go out and say you have the evidence. Like, he is a mouth breathing freaking lapdog for the deep state.
Well, did you see that Simpson was actually having with a close liaison with Mark Warner? They were in constant contact.
Another loser. Can't stand that guy. I'm like Indy. I'm trying to learn from you guys. I mean, I was paying attention to stuff when it was going on as a Trump supporter, but you guys are obviously, you've forgotten more about this than I'll ever know. I'm reading in the first binder, like page 84, about Cohen. Is this all just made up? This stuff about Cohen meeting at the Kremlin and all this stuff?
Yes.
This is just all made
completely
up,
whole cloth.
Yes.
Whole cloth made up.
This is fucking insane. I mean,
Whole cloth.
This is crazy. Yep. Wow.
Well, and that's why we've been so angry, right? And that's why, like, Trash and I would get on Spaces and just start screaming, because it's like, yo, what they are telling you guys is literally made up. Okay, like, we're not talking like, oh, there's a shred of evidence where there's smoke, there's fire. No. There was no smoke and there was no fire. Okay, you know what the smoke and the fire was? It was their illegal activities that they needed to cover up and ruin Donald Trump and anybody associated with him, or anybody who dared to stand up in defense of Donald Trump in order to keep their illicit activities going and to keep their asses out of jail. They tried to ruin an innocent man over this for freaking nothing, to protect their own asses. But God. But
I mean, this
God,
is like,
and now we will see exactly what they did.
I mean, it's like it's like reading a novel. It's like I'm reading a novel. It's insane about Cohen. I can't believe it.
Oh, wait till you hear when Michael Cohen was on a podcast, on the Mea Culpa podcast, promoted by the Midas Touch, when Michael Cohen and Norm Eisen were reminiscing on the days where they met together, and they put together 10 articles of impeachment, but they only needed to use 2. These people are fucking evil.
Dude,
What
Michael
evil?
Cohen is the biggest piece of shit. And I can talk about this because my dad was doing real estate back before, like, Donald Trump ran for president, right? And Michael Cohen would bring people into Donald Trump's office and be like, yo, fuck Trump. I got my own real estate. Here, come see my buildings. You don't need to see his. He was never for Trump. And I can make the argument and pretty much prove that Michael Cohen was an FBI deep state Democrat asset from the very beginning, sent in order to get in Donald Trump's finances and everything he could to either start placing stuff like the Stormy Daniels shit, right? Or to sing like a canary of the illegal activities that he did behind Donald Trump's back. Right. And if you look into who Michael Cohen was before he became Trump's personal lawyer, right? Cohen came from a law outfit in New York that used to be that was founded by like the finance guy of the Democrat Party. Michael Cohen was involved with the Hillary Clinton campaign way back in the day. He was not that person that he has painted himself as, right? And he was on a group of lawyers at first with Donald Trump, right? There was like 200 lawyers, right, that were all working. And what Michael Cohen did is he went out to every Trump property in New York City and started buying up the real estate, right? Buying up the real estate. And Donald Trump's, whoa, look at this guy. He's buying a lot of real estate. I think I might make him my personal attorney. He brings him in as the personal attorney. Now he's got access to all the books, everything. And if he was a mole to begin with, think about and what Trump or what Trash just mentioned about the Mea Culpa podcast, and maybe Trash could play it, is Norm Eisen admits that his whole grand adventure after Donald Trump started, when Michael Cohen called him and said, listen, Donald Trump, he's never going to leave office. He's a tyrant. He's a tyrant. So, you Norm Eisen, you need to go after him. You need to go after him. Go. And he started providing him with the information. So this whole basis of this shit comes back to Michael freaking Cohen.
Give me 30 seconds and I'll pull that clip up and you guys can listen to it for yourself.
When did Michael Cohen become Trump's personal lawyer?
2011,
Yeah.
2010,
No, I think it was
2012.
earlier than that. I want to say like 2000. Someone look it up. I think it was like 2008, 2009, maybe.
When did he become compromised then, in your opinion?
I think he was always compromised.
But that's way
Because
before
remember,
Trump. Go ahead.
So hold on. In 2011, I personally stood in Trump Tower with every head of the Republican Party for the counties of New York State. They came to Trump Towers in order to beg Donald Trump to run for New York governor. And they went around a table for 4 hours, each individual county begging him. And Donald Trump looks at him and he said, you know what? My path does not run through Albany. My path runs through Washington, D.C., and that's where I'm going. There has always been a threat of Donald Trump going to run for president. And everybody knew that if Donald put his name in to run for president, he would win. Why? Unlimited money, right? He can finance his own shit. He don't need anybody. And name recognition. Everybody knew who Donald Trump was before he ever stepped to run for that presidency. So they knew at this point. So as the rumblings got closer and closer, right? They were like, oh shit, he's really going to do it. Right. And he always had that rivalry with Hillary. Right. So like there was that thing and it was like coalescing all together. And I would say Michael Cohen was always compromised.
So people think Trump, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Trash, real quick. I'm trying to piece this together as just a layman. People think Trump really made his decision that night at that correspondence dinner when they really went after him. Obama went after him and embarrassed him and all that.
He made his decision on Oprah in the 80s.
Right. He okay. But you're correct. And he sounds exactly today as he did then. And the stuff he's implementing now, he talked about then 100%. But but this is like 20. When was that correspondence dinner? And do you think this really started to go into motion after that when people thought he was serious?
So, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong. That would have been post Andrew Breitbart, his passing. So 2011, 2012?
I'm going to look it up right now.
Right. And,
no, I think that's right.
When I was at that meeting, that was 2011. And he
2011
said his path ran through DC. He knew he was going to run for president.
Yeah, we knew that.
He knew.
So, Jen, I've got that clip pulled up. This is Norm Eisen, king of lawfare, and Michael Cohen on the Mea Culpa podcast. This is why Midas Touch blocked me, because I unearthed this clip. It's about 1 minute and 51. But I would highly recommend listening to this because I put this out in May of 2024, but this clip was actually from, I want to say May of 2023, when Michael Cohen had re-risen after his prison stint, whatever it may be. But listen to this clip. It's about 1 minute 51. This is Norm Eisen, Mr. Color Revolution himself, and Michael Cohen, who is a complete fucking douchebag. 2011 Michael Cohen. But here we are. Norm Eisen, Michael Cohen. Listen to this.
You were the very first to warn me of all this, that Donald Trump was not. When I interviewed you right before you went to start serving your time, you stood up and did the right thing. You went to start serving time in Otisville. I came to see you in New York, and when I was starting my impeachment work, and you showed me who Donald Trump really was. And one thing you said stuck with me, and it was the theme of 2023. It relates to this absolute immunity conversation we're having. It's going to be the biggest issue in the world in 2024. Like 2024 is going to be a historic year for the 3 millennia long history of democracy. You told me Donald Trump will never leave the White House voluntarily. Do not expect a peaceful transition of power. he is going to refuse to go if he loses. And that is still the issue, of course, that came to the fore. You helped me get ready. That's part of the debt of gratitude I have to you. You helped me get ready. That's why when I drafted, it's in my book. I write about you in my impeachment book, A Case for the American People. And I revealed for the first time we had 10 articles of impeachment. We only ended up using 2, but why? You inspired me to do 10 because you warned me, this guy is a dictator. And you were the first, Michael, you were the first full extent of Trump's danger to democracy, the first person who told me to my face. I went to talk to you about these hush money payments and 2016 election interference. By the way, we were ahead of the curve on that too, my friend.
Fuck you.
Because you were the curve, you asshole.
Because you created the curve, you fucking asshole. Fuck you. Fuck you, Norm Eisen. Sorry, Walt.
You're fine.
You.
I am enjoying
Fuck
listening
you.
to this because you have no idea how much work I've just done right now. I'm on claim 5 of the complete full debunk of every single possible thing that they claimed. So I'll be done with this soon. I'm going to publish as soon as I'm done with it.
By the way, that correspondence dinner was April 30th, 2011.
Yep, 2011. Like I said. Yep. Yeah. I remember all this. And I've been banned, and like all of us have been, Jen, I mean, like you more than me. Banned, debanked, deplatformed, depersoned. We are not real people. Yeah, like you're rated by the post office, by the way. Like, what the fuck is that?
The fucking post office, man.
Like, what the fuck is that, dude?
Yeah, people don't even know that's a thing. Yeah, they literally got raided by the Postal Service.
The
It's
postal
the most
police?
ridiculous thing that's ever happened.
The postal police
No, not
raided
the
you?
police. Like literally, and they didn't even really tell us who they were at first, right? Because we had to be like, are you Las Vegas Metro? No. Are you Nevada State Police? No. Are you the FBI? No. Well, who the hell are you? We're the United States Postal Service. What the fuck?
Oh my god.
To be fair, that's not funny at all. Like, how fucking dare you? But also, like,
It's
really?
fucking
I'm
hilarious.
getting, like, of all people, I'm getting raided by the post office? Like, I'm actually offended on your behalf. Like, it's actually, like, secondhand fucking offensive.
You might be the only one in history.
It's
Doesn't
okay.
happen.
I offended them. We're good.
So, Trash, just to be clear, are you saying, like, how dare you send the postal police, at least send the FBI?
Like, at least send the fucking ATF or the FBI. Like, at least. Like, don't send the fucking postal carriers to my
Dude,
fucking
they
RV.
let them force entry.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
Well,
hey, I have
mean,
a quick question
I'm
for
sure
you
it's
guys
not
again.
funny
For
at the time, but yeah.
No, but I understand. But the layman, yeah, I appreciate you making light of it in retrospect. Quick question, again, the layman perspective here is, so if the okay, I want to go back to this topic about the brashness of using the government, knowing that everything's going to be recorded. Because you said, well, it wasn't a last gasp effort, but it was more of a brashness of saying we can do whatever we want to do. But they know, obviously, being smart people that they are, that everything's going to be recorded and that eventually it'll come out. So how does that wash, from a logic perspective of somebody that, is it because they've got, is it because they've gotten away with it so many times in the past that they don't
had
feel
their
like
people strategically placed inside the government that even like when they won, even if the story tried to get out, it was going to get shut down immediately and spun into something else. That this side of the story would never be told because they would have gotten into power and we would have continued marching on the path that we were on.
So it is a big bet on having your people and not the Cashes of the world and the Bondis of the world. Okay, so that's number one, and then the second question is, again, you're talking about getting Trump's lawyer in there early on in 2011 or even earlier to compromise him, and who else between then, if that's the earliest case, and eventually in 2014, 15, as he announced and began campaigning, who else, if any, were plants, essentially, quote unquote, plants in the Trump, world?
Well, that's a whole long list there, bud. Like, that's a lot of information to unpack. Like, there are so many people.
For who though? Right, Walter?
Yeah.
No, a plan for the opposition.
No. What I'm saying, well, you have to define who the opposition is, right? Because you had the RNC with Sean Spicer and Reince Priebus vying for political power just as much as you had Hillary Clinton spying on the campaign, right? So do you equate those?
So let's just focus on aside. People? No. Obviously, theoretically, the Rhino crowd, trying to keep their constituency in place is, in my mind, or at least I think in a lot of people's mind, vastly different. That's a fair political fight between, who's going to control the party. Whereas what we're hearing about what
I'm not talking
Cohen did.
We're here getting their people in strategic positions inside the White House to control Trump and define his message.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about prior to that, in the Clinton campaign, and who else was put in place on behalf of the Clinton campaign, like it's being construed that Cohen was, to provide information back to the opposition.
Like I said, there is a long list we could go through, and there's another there's a whole nother narrative here that we're not even really talking about, of people that we believe were intentionally installed to keep information directly away from Donald Trump. There was a whole narrative around that we never.
It's just interesting when you talk about. I'm not in any way trying to contradict this or challenge this. It's interesting to me that Cohen was inserted that early on, and if that, typically people don't do things on a one-off basis like that, and who else was there that purported to be on his side, et cetera. And again, I'm not asking you to, there's a lot.
Hold on. Cohen being inserted early on is my opinion, right? Yeah. I just have facts to back it up.
Right, but I would also say
no. I'm not purporting it's an opinion or anything else. I'm not. I guess I just want to be clear. I'm not dismissing or challenging anything you're saying. I'm asking for more information. That's all.
So what I'm trying to say is that I think Cohen, in his own self-interest, has inserted himself long before he would ever find himself to be deemed useful. And then once he had placed himself into a position where he would actually be deemed useful, he could then monetize off that kind of title, and then he could sell himself to the highest bidder to become useful. I don't think
that's a big distinction. Thank you for making that distinction.
In my opinion, I'm not speaking for anybody else on stage.
This is news to a lot of us that are listening, and we appreciate it. I appreciate it, but it's in retrospect, as you kind of put the pieces together. In retrospect, it's obvious that it becomes pretty apparent. I say obvious, but maybe apparent that that's what happened, right? And so I'm just, the Cohen thing is so fascinating to a lot of us that I'm asking them for more of, stories like that. Who else did things like that, so to speak?
Right. I understand what you mean. The deal is that the list there is very long, and it's very easy to see based on the people that didn't get prosecuted. I'll just say that. Like, all you really have to do, if you want to see what you're asking, just go look at the people that were not prosecuted, that were around the Trump camp and then flipped on Trump. Those are the people that were implanted.
Well, and I would just point out that once Trump won in 2016, the group that went to the White House with President Trump was very, very small. It was only like 10 or 20 people. And they had to hire all of these positions, right? And then you had certain people show up, or certain people be like, oh no, this person needs to be in that position, right? And people were inserted all along the way.
but it's not like really clearly defined, like, oh, like, you know, like who was working for who, right? That's where you have to, like, I guess, delineate on things sometimes, right? Because like there were factions who were trying to do one thing, there were factions who were working for the Democrat Party, and it is a miracle that Trump was able to accomplish what he did in his first term with all of these factions trying to constantly take him down, and set him up publicly through the media.
100%.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Thank you guys.
Well, you'll be able to read.
It
You'll be able to read this document that I'm putting out very shortly. I'm working on editing right now, and you'll be able to read my full thoughts if you want. And this will give you a timeline that goes from beginning to end, goes through every major claim, goes through every single detail. This is all of my notes, all of my information, and then now cross-referenced with the new stuff. So you'll be able to find all of this in here.
100%. Walt, Jen, everybody, I gotta bounce out. I'm gonna go to bed. I gotta wake up from a normal job tomorrow.
Me
but
too.
like Jen, like Walt, can we not take some victory laps tonight? Because we've been talking about this shit for a long time. And I think that we've been validated. So now that we've been validated, now that we know that we were on the right path, I think that we don't stop. I think that it's time to like kick up the gears a notch. And now we actually have some meat on the bones
Well,
to go
and
out.
all three of us know, Trash, that the best way they found to hide information is publicly.
Was right out in front of your face.
Yep.
Right out in front of your
and you
face.
just need to look. So get out there and start looking, people. It's there. We just gotta find it.
100%.
Yep.
All right, guys.
All right, Trash.
Thanks for being here. All right.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I gotta bounce.
Hey guys, on
Thanks,
behalf of the listeners that are not insiders like you, I gotta thank you so much. This is extraordinary content, extraordinary reporting, extraordinary insight, extraordinary everything. And I know it's largely based upon, you know, years of work. And I just got to acknowledge you guys. This is, again, I said it earlier, one of the more extraordinary real time, you know, sort of documentaries in time I've been on. And it's, so, you know, God bless you guys for everything you've done in the past. You can't get enough credit. You'll never get enough credit. But what happened today and the way you were able to dissect it in real time was extraordinary. And I appreciate it so much personally.
Well, thank you. And, you know, the deal is that we already got our victory when we put our guy back in the White House. This is bonus points and what we've been wanting to be able to get done when we didn't have access to the information. So, like I said, if you want to read more and you want to actually know every single aspect of this, this report I'm about to publish now. So you'll be able to read everything that we were discussing, and it'll lay it all out, claim by claim, minute by minute, day by day, all the way back to the beginning with all of my notes, all of my information, everything all at once. So you can look at it there.
Yeah. Everybody listening, give Walter a follow. He's put a lot of work on this. Trash, always give a follow. Jen and crew. I mean, this is some of the biggest soldiers, strongest people that have been attacked. I've only heard pieces of it. And what I've heard is abominable. They just talk about postal police showing up at your door. I mean, their doors, and so
just
give them a
so
follow.
you're aware, that sort of stuff isn't ending, right? Like they just tried to kill me like 2 weeks ago. So just keep that in keep top of your mind. This shit ain't over. We're still going here. So this is
real for you guys.
Oh yeah,
this
Jen,
is,
I haven't talked to you in a minute, Jen. Did you know that I get swatted? I got swatted a few months earlier last month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I messaged you. I just happened to be up and I saw you put up your post and I like messaged you. I was like, oh my God, are you okay? Like what happened?
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, I'm okay. And then you jumped in a space, I think.
I don't know if I had a space that night or not. I know I had a space the next day when they sent me pizza.
Next day, that's what it was.
Yeah, when they sent me pizzas, those fucking fucks. Anyway, I'll rant about that forever. But anyway, so this stuff isn't over. But this is a big win today. So it's good news. This is about to go out though. So if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, you can go there now and this will be up shortly and you'll be able to see it there. But all right, guys, I'm going to shut down. Trash, thanks for rocking with me. This was an unexpected drop today and a hell of a lot of information for us to fucking go through in a single space. So
yeah, sorry guys. I know we sounded spotty. I know we sounded like all over the place, but like a lot of us have been in this. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. We have been in this, therefore we understood what we were seeing. Some people that may have joined that were not part of it doesn't exclude you at all. What I'm trying to say is that like some of us are taking victory laps after we've been beaten down over the last several years. Jen more so than myself, Walt as well, and then myself. I just want to say that like as much as it feels good to be right, I fucking hate that it's happening. Like, I don't want any of this to happen. I don't want any of this to happen, period, bar none. I don't even care if I'm right. I don't even care if we get credit for being right. I don't care about all that. Like, I really don't want this to happen. And I think we're on a mission to change this country. Anyway, thanks, guys.
I'll just say this. I'll echo kind of what Indy said. And you guys gave us better information in real time than we could get anywhere else. Everybody in the space was lucky to be here. I feel lucky to have been here when this broke. Is pretty crazy. And the way you all handled it was phenomenal. Thank you for answering the questions. Like, for people like me who, you know, we're all into politics and everything very much, but we're not into this like you guys. And to have you guys break it down like that, and as you're going to break it down even further, you know, over the next few hours, will be invaluable. And as Indy said, we all appreciate it, and we were glad to be here for it. So don't for a second think you did anything spotty or half-assed or whatever you did. You guys did phenomenal, and thank you very much.
Yeah, and I just went to Joe Walt's space there, WCDispatch.com. I just subscribed. It's $50, a drop in the bucket compared to what we often spend for a bunch of bullshit on, you know, cable and all the other crap. So look, I've never done this before in my life, is come up with somebody I really have never met or don't know. But what I experienced tonight, what Walt did, and obviously I know Trash as well, that I don't think he has a subscription, but subscribe to Walt's space there. I can't wait to see.
Trash has subscriptions on his X page. You can subscribe to him.
Okay, I'll go there too as well. But I just subscribed to Walt, and I can't wait to see what he dissected here and edited off of this thing. So yeah, encourage y'all. And this is not a paid advertisement. I don't think we've ever talked. This is completely anonymous. This isn't I'm certainly not an influencer. So I'm just giving you my take.
Well, I appreciate the subscription. It definitely helps trying to do this stuff. So, you know, we've been doing this for a long time, but today was a good day. And this report is the nail in the fucking coffin that I've wanted to nail for almost a year. And, you know, I don't know how long I've been doing this, but it's about to be published just now. I've just got a couple cleaning up things I got to do for it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You know, we've got more stuff that's going to be coming out on this stuff here in the near future. Make sure you follow my co-host Trash. Make sure you follow Jen Lawrence here. Opinions vary. You know, anybody up here on my stage, usually I only bring up people that I really think have the ability to talk and really can, you know, assist with the conversation and have something invaluable to say. They all put out good content. Make sure you follow everybody. Turn on notifications if you want to actually see more of our content. That's one of the best ways to support a X page, is to have notifications on. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get this report that I'm about to put out here very shortly. So you guys will be able to see more of that, but we will have another space. I am traveling to DC this weekend, so I will probably not be on tomorrow night, but I will likely be on over the weekend. And I will definitely have more of this to break down. So, all right, guys, thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.